West Denver. Sleep deprived and heavily caffeinated.
All right, let's do this then.
This is the Jeff and Bill Show.
I don't understand why this is an issue.
They don't always agree, but hey, at least they have coffee.
Coffee.
And each other.
I love you, man.
God help us.
I want to bless him. We need all the help we can get.
Now here's Jeff Hunt and Bill Thorpe. The Jeff and Bill Show on News Talk 710 KNUS.
The Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Congratulations. You're waking up in the greatest country in history, and Bill Thorpe's back.
Yes, I am. I've recovered.
We had a great time with conservative Mama yesterday.
Nice.
She was hanging out in studio.
That's so nice of her to join us. That's really cool.
Glad to have you back.
For me.
And thank you to Conservative Mama.
Yeah, thank you, Conservative Mama. Appreciate you coming in. Yeah, I'm back a little more rested than I was yesterday. I didn't get home until 12:30 after the concert. So I was trying to adult. And that's why I took yesterday off, because younger me would have just powered through. Older me now knows that's stupid. That is really, really,
yeah,
really
I woke
dumb.
up sore after gardening the other day.
Exactly.
I was like, oh, boy.
It is so stupid. And you're like, how come this hurts when I do this now? And so, yeah, it was one of those that, not getting home until 12:30 in the morning. There was no way I would have been able to rally and been coherent at all.
All right, so text messages yesterday. Where was Bill? Was he in the mosh pit? Did he party with the band afterwards?
No. Went in, and it was Papa Roach, Under Oath, and Rise Against. Huge. I'm a huge fan of Rise Against.
I don't know any one of those bands.
You don't?
I've heard of Papa Roach.
Yeah, you would know songs if you heard Papa Roach, and probably recognize 2 Rise Against songs is probably what you would recognize. But I love them, and because they were only on stage for about an hour, they did all the hits. So all of my favorite ones. They did the Violence. They did a whole bunch of other stuff, and so it was really, really neat to see them, because they are just fantastic. And then
there was a mosh pit.
Yeah, there was a big one. In fact, Rise Against was calling it out, and Papa Roach pushed out a couple of times, and there was one. I was showing Adam a video of a song that they played as the opening theme of Raw a number of years ago. I had forgotten until he pointed out. He's like, that's the theme of Raw. I'm like, oh, wow. And he had started an old school circle and mosh pit in there. But tail end of the show, right before their biggest hit, which is Last Resort, they did kind of a medley of 5 90s songs.
Okay.
Yeah, you know Last Resort.
This is
that
my last resort.
Yep, exactly. That's it. So really good. And they did a medley, but Jacoby Shaddix, who's the lead singer, is wandering around the venue. He comes walking up. We're in the 11th row, and he goes right by us as he's doing one part of it. So we got high fives as he goes by, which was really cool. And then they start doing some songs. He goes all the way to the back of the Pepsi Center. He's up at the back, does a little bit of a song there, comes back down. He goes, okay, guys. He's like, security, it's that time. He goes, time to get in the mosh pit. So Jacoby Shaddix crawls into the mosh pit, and it is crazy. I showed you the video. It is crazy to watch. It's like this giant amoeba just bouncing around, and it was wonderful to see. Yeah, it was so cool.
I imagine that this lead singer is not in his 30s or even his 40s.
No,
and he's jumping into the mosh pit.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But again, the thing that I was really impressed with is both of them. They're touring on their 25th anniversary. Basically, Papa Roach is celebrating Infest, and Rise Against is their 25th anniversary of being a band. So it was kind of a real celebration, but both lead singers have taken care of themselves, and boy, can they sing. Their voices are so good still after all these years, because those people that have been, watching and kind of keeping notes understand that, Steve Perry, I can't sing anymore. Sorry, Journey fans, can't sing at all. Motley Crue, Vince Neil, nope. No more. Sorry about that. Axl Rose struggles a lot with some of the Guns N' Roses stuff. There's certain singers that just can't push that anymore, and they were fantastic. But Shaddix, he bounced around. He was very, very animated, given the fact that it was a Monday. But I think the crowd sort of helped. Is numerous times throughout it, he's like, Denver, Monday, what in the F? How come all y'all are here? I mean, it was 98% full. And they were like, this is crazy. And a couple of times, both Rise Against and Papa Roach stopped the show and said, guys, you're incredible. And like Jacoby Shaddix did a couple of call and response things with the audience. He's like, Denver, you're amazing. And he goes, for a Monday night, he goes, this is the kind of show that as a band, we walk backstage afterwards and talk about. This is one of those shows that we will remember. Thank you for making this so special. It was really cool.
Whenever bands go like, good evening, Denver, or like, you guys are great. My mind always goes back to that Simpsons episode where he has the bumper sticker of the city on the back of the guitar.
Oh, absolutely. To see what he is,
Good evening, Denver.
Yep, Denver. Yep. And it is, there's a thing in professional wrestling called cheap pops. And that's what you do as a face. When you're a good guy, you get in there and you always announce the name of the city. And as a singer, you know, if you announce the name of the city, it always tells you that. But I believe Jacoby Shaddix was being honest because he stopped a couple of times. He made reference to the crowd. And he told the story of, he said, listen, so far on this tour, our favorite performance so far has been Sacramento. He's like, Denver, you're running a close second at this point. This is amazing. You guys are doing this. And they get 2/3 of the way through after he did a third call and response with the fans. And he stops and he goes, Denver, he goes, hate to tell you this, but you beat Sacramento. He goes, now I'm going to go home. And everyone's going to go, oh, Denver now, huh? Yeah, F you. Yeah, screw you, Mr. Denver. Yeah. And he's like, I'm sorry. He goes, you guys are doing this. It was incredible. And he was yelling out. He was going down and leaning over and high-fiving people that were coming off crowd surfing. He was pointing out people in the audience. He was wishing people happy birthday that had brought signs. They were really, really into it. It was fantastic. And the band did a lot of emotional things also. They kind of got into some of the things they've struggled with that was really, really cool. One of the ones is they did the song Leave a Light On, which is suicide prevention. And it was a popular song that crossed over with Carrie Underwood, and they had just performed that song on stage with Carrie Underwood in Vegas, which was a show previous to this one. And so they kind of did a real special thing with Leave a Light On, where they come out on the front of the stage, they all play it basically acoustically, and they bring everybody's cell phone lights on, and he does a talk and stuff like that, and they've got a PSA about suicide prevention. It's really, really cool. It was so emotional. It was fantastic.
All right, so what is a 50-year-old, oh gosh, it just fell, mosh pit. I was going to say melting pot.
Well, no, he did.
What does a bunch of 50-year-olds in a mosh pit look like?
See, the thing is that all the 50-year-olds are like me. We're smart. We're on the side. We bought in the seats that are the cushy ones. It's the kids that are down on the floor. So I'm watching the mosh pit because I was there. Yeah, Jacoby jumps in there, and of course, he jumps around for about a minute or so. So all of us that have been in the mosh pit have a good 60 seconds in us. We can all go 60. I mean, that's it. It's after that we're gassed out. So he's got a good 60 in him. I'm in, and so he did that. And so he just bounced around for about 60 seconds.
Did you want to? Was there a longing to jump
absolutely.
down there? And then you went with your kids too.
Especially with Rise Against. I was really pushed to do that one. But I know what hurts. I am very self-aware, especially after working with Balanced Wall Space. I'm very self-aware of the stuff that I can and can't do. And so I know that is a very, very bad choice. So I just can't. But I watched it the entire night. Did you go with
your kids?
Yeah, one of the kids came with me. Yeah, Max came with me,
nice.
Which is good. Yeah, he knows the band pretty well, and he knows Rise Against. He and I have seen Rise Against 2 other times together. So he knows the band there, and he's familiar with Papa Roach. So yeah, although there was a little bit of a tug of war as far as who the kids was going to get to go with me, because they all kind of wanted to go see that. Yeah, I'm like, I got 1 extra ticket because it's super awkward to ask the label for 4 or 5 tickets. That's awkward. 2's easy. 2's an easy ask from the record label. Anything above that gets a little dicey because they've already planned out for pairs. So anytime you request tickets, they'll give you pairs. But so anything more than that, it has to be an extra ask. And I know the record rep pretty well, but I didn't want to push on this one. He's done me some favors in the past, and I didn't want to push the relationship. So I'm like, nah, we'll just do the 2. But, it's fantastic.
Well,
it was so much fun.
Glad to have you back, Bill. Lots to talk about today. Michael Malone's firing.
What the hell happened there?
Dude, that was crazy yesterday.
Yeah. I thought it was an Onion article when I first saw it come across my social media. I'm like, oh, who's doing the parody? I'm like, wait, that's a real account.
Yeah, and I want to know what happened in that room, because to go to that level of firing the winningest coach, the only coach that's ever brought a championship.
Yeah.
And then it drives me crazy when organizations don't go a little bit extra to make sure that a person leaves well. Like when they just, you remember that Joe Pesci scene in, I think it's Goodfellas, where he thinks he's getting made.
Oh, yes, that is Goodfellas.
And then he walks into the room, and then they just pop him in the back of the head.
Yeah, and he knows as soon as he opens the room and nobody's there. He
knows. Right.
He knows
and has that, figuratively, not literally, but figuratively ever happened to you where you thought you were going into a meeting for something else, and lo and behold, HR sitting in the room there, and then you're done, and you felt like you put a lot into the organization, and they hardly even give you a thank you on the way out.
I've been put out of my misery, a couple of times unexpectedly, where you didn't think that it was coming, and it wasn't anything about this, but there is a story with my younger brother where he was working for a company, and for literally, it's got to be it may not be exactly 2 years, but it's pretty close to 2 years where they had fired a supervisor and they were like, hey, promotion's coming, I'm sorry, money's tight, promotion's coming, money's tight, promotion's coming.
Horrible bosses.
Yeah,
like.
money tight, it's money's tight, yes, we're going to get it, we know you're doing the work, but you're not getting the promotion, we've given you the title, you haven't gotten the money, we know the money's coming, and then the day that the phone rings and it's HR and they pick it up and they're like, hi, you're fired. So instead of the meeting that they had been promising him for nearly 2 years about more money, the call that comes that he's expecting to be the final discussion about the more money is, nope, we've decided to fire you. Yeah, and it was simply, again, because of money. They had to make, it was, again, publicly traded company. They made it, the dots line up. And, yeah. And again, he wasn't that expensive at that time either. So it was one of those, that was a really, really hard one, on him. And I still have a lot of
I want to get
anger
into
with that.
this.
Yeah.
And look, I've been treated very similarly in another capacity. And if this has happened to you, phone lines open 303-696-1971 or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. But this is the line of the Denver Post, and I think they're exactly right about this. People around the league will remember this for a long time.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to talk to Blake about this because he's a sports guy. He might have some better insight. Look, I understand coaches come and go.
Yeah.
But he's endeared to Denver. Brought us a national championship, 6 straight playoff bids.
Yeah, he did what George Karl really kind of wasn't able to do, is get us through the next round into the next level. The weird part is, and we'll have to talk to Blake about it, is the 3 games before you head to the playoffs.
What?
That's a
and
weird
you think that's
time.
going to turn things around?
Yeah.
This is coming. The Nuggets haven't had a great season. All right, if you want to get rid of the guy, that's fine. You have every right to do that. You're the owner. But to do it right before the playoffs, there's no way things get better for the Nuggets in light of this. Are you kidding me? You think they're going to play more inspired?
I don't know. And on devil's advocacy, I was thinking about this last night. Could that be the reason that what we've seen in recent memory, and I talked a little bit with my brother through text messages yesterday because he's much more of the Nuggets fan as far as watching games on the regular than I am. And so I was asking him about it, and he said the past few weeks, they have looked awful. He said if they walked into the playoffs playing this way, they're out in the first round.
But this seems like a team meeting issue to fire the most winning coach.
Oh yeah, but he said if the coach isn't getting them playing at this point, he's like, why do you have any if they keep losing? And okay, this is what he came down to, is he said that in recent memory, the Nuggets are losing games down the stretch. They are playing like Duke did when they lost to Houston. They can't find any way to win down the stretch, and that gets worse in the playoffs. And he said that if Malone can't find that rotation and can't find the team right now to win as we're closing out the regular season, what in the world makes you think that he would be able to do it in the playoffs? My brother wasn't saying that the team will necessarily be better and have a better run in the playoffs, but he's saying he understood the hesitancy of those in charge, especially team owners, walking into the playoffs when you watched the recent just laying an egg by the Nuggets at the tail end of games. I mean, you had Russell Westbrook the other night, got a steal at the end and then leaves the layup short that could have been the winner. And you're like, wait. Little things like that. And it's like, then everything gets tougher and the defense gets harder inside of the playoffs, and Nuggets don't play defense as it is. So my brother was kind of like, no, he's not convinced this is going to be better. He's like, but he's convinced it can't be worse. He's like, the Nuggets were in an awful situation rolling into the playoffs at this point, and they were going to get bounced in the first round. And so you might as well, he's like, I see why with the ownership, you might as well roll the dice and see if the dude that's the assistant might have something in the tank, and maybe he can do something, and then it solves your coaching search for the offseason. If not, well, you tell him thank you, and then you go on a coaching search. Yeah, that was his idea.
The message it sends to the rest of the fans out there. Let's get to Blake Olson because I'm sure he has some thoughts.
Oh, I'm sure.
Now is time for Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
43 and partly cloudy on Hump Day in Denver, expecting a high of 72 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. our top story. I guess I'll just start with the Nuggets then. Nuggets head coach Michael Malone and GM Calvin Booth have been fired. President Josh Kroenke said things were trending in the wrong direction. And David Adelman takes over as the interim head coach. Nuggets at the Kings tonight. I agree with Billy's brother.
Yeah.
You're in a situation like this. They were not playing well, but guys, this is a world of huge, as you well know, gigantic egos, and something was boiling in the past year, at least, in my opinion. I'm just guessing. I know all these people that were involved in this. So yeah. I'm gonna say Josh Kroenke said, "Hey, I'm the boss. I don't like the way it's going, and I will be the last word, and you work for me, and that's it. Bottom line."
You know, my brother pointed out something that I didn't know. Mm-hmm. He said that during, and I'm not watching the games like he does, but he said during the most recent Lakers game, Stan Kroenke was on the end of the bench, sitting there watching the game, and his supposition was Stan trying to take the temperature of the dynamic of the team during those pressure times? What did he see in Malone? What did he see in the players responding? How was their cohesion? Were there clicks? The idea of, and his supposition was maybe Stan Kroenke was trying to do that management by wandering around, trying to get that one-on-one look, that up-close look as to what was going on inside the team, and to see if it was fixable. And maybe that was kind of the idea, that after he saw Lakers and the stuff that he saw going on in the team and in the huddles and stuff like that, he's like, nope, this can't be fixed. We've got to flush this thing. Yeah, but again, he's just guessing. He has nothing more than the fact that he's sitting at home on his couch watching TV from Seattle. That's it.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm certain he was doing. I mean, he owns the team. So.
Yeah.
And I'm certain he was doing that.
Yeah. Talk about a perk, though, when you own the team. Can I sit on the end of the bench? Well, yes, sir, you can. That's one hell of a perk.
That is a great perk. And I'll say this. I'm one who believes in this day and age of the NBA, there are 1,000 guys who could coach an NBA team. I know that's yes. And the message tires quickly in the NBA. This isn't college basketball where you have a legendary coach and guys will listen to him for 2 or 3 years. I mean, it is a short run of believing and putting your best foot forward in the NBA for a coach, because they all think they're better than the coach. They all think they know more than the coach. They're the greatest athletes physically in the world, and they're not great listeners. They really aren't.
They haven't had to be great listeners.
Don't you think this leaves a bad taste in the mouth of Denver fans?
No,
I mean,
they don't. Look, if they
Michael Malone brought us a championship, 6 playoff berths.
Maybe back in the day. Jeff, but the bottom line is if they win 2 or 3 series, and if Rick Adelman's son is the interim coach, David Adelman. Rick Adelman, legendary NBA coach. David Adelman knows just as much as these guys do, and this could light a fire under the team. With Jokic, who is arguably the best player in the NBA, and the MVP, I mean, anything's possible. I could see him losing in the first round. I could see him going, 2 rounds, 3. Who knows?
But if that plays out. If that plays out, let's play out all those, okay? If they lose in the first round, then Kroenke's going to be blamed for what seems to be like a rash decision to fire the most winning coach the Denver Nuggets have ever had.
But as Billy just said, they were playing horribly the past 2 weeks, month. No one's talking about the Nuggets right now. Everyone's talking about the Cavaliers and possibly the Lakers. So it was going to be a mild surprise anyway, not a shocker or anything, because you have Jokic on the team, on the roster. But the other guys aren't exactly playing well and healthy, and they don't look like they're in a position to just go off and rip off 8 straight wins and then roll into the championship game and dominate. So I don't think fans this day and age just give them victories. They don't care about Michael Malone in the end. Yeah, and I disagree with whatever the Denver Post said. I disagree with it.
Like everything you say.
But no, I guess what I'm saying.
Just on principle, I disagree.
A year from now, if they go to the semifinals with Adelman, the fans aren't going to care.
Right. Winning covers all wounds.
Yes,
Oh, yes, it
absolutely.
does.
Exactly.
But the way institutions send people out tells me a lot about their leadership.
I never feel sorry for an NBA head coach or a player. Ever.
Yeah, I don't.
This
either,
ain't
honestly.
you and me, Jeff.
I know, but I've been on the receiving side of the Joe Pesci Goodfellas. Come on into the office, and we're going to pop you in the back of the head.
Michael Malone will do just fine. I thought they should have hired Melvin Hunt before they hired Michael Malone. He'll be just fine. He could take care of all your kids and their great-grandchildren.
Yeah, that's the thing is, I think Jeff has a point about the idea that, maybe not fans, but there could be some people looking for NBA jobs that are like, ooh, look what happened in Denver. Look what happened in Denver. However, coming to work in Denver, there's a giant pile of money. Giant piles of money has a really loud voice. and there are a lot of people that'll go places they say they wouldn't originally because of the giant pile of money. And I can see Denver coming to the next potential coach, if it's not Adelman, and going, hi, would you like to work for us? And like, oh, you did this to Malone. But money. I know, but the way you treated Malone. Money?
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
They don't care about how the ownership treats them.
No.
If they're willing to sign a contract
for
especially, 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, especially with the go-away clause. Yes, you're going to pay me if you fire me.
Absolutely.
Oh, good. Yes, we'd all love to have that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a fake world, guys. I mean,
It is.
It's fantasy world. I mean, it's just the strangest thing. It's almost as bad as Hollywood. It really is.
Yeah, in many ways, yeah.
And so they don't care.
I'm in the part of Elon Musk's biography, not his autobiography, but Walter Isaacson's biography, where he's now lost the company he has started twice because of board takeovers, where they essentially then kick him out. It's very reminiscent of what Steve Jobs had to do. And I just, man, I don't know. I don't know if it's a soft spot on me, but when these institutions just decide we're going to take the guy who's delivered for us, brought in a championship, 6 wins, and you just on a Tuesday show him the door.
Yeah, I've seen worse, believe it or not. But I mean, it is strange. I mean, when you have a team that could win two championships in 3 years, the possibility is still there. But I mean, in that profession, you are paid for the risk of
exactly. That's a great point. That's a great point
for what exactly happened on Tuesday.
Oh, it's in many ways it is the same reation that Jeff and I exist here. They hire us to fire us. That's it.
That's right.
That eventually is going to happen.
The pay risk, though. Yeah. Did I miss that memo?
No, not at all. Yeah, that's just a special thing done for athletes and coaches.
Maybe there'll be some protesters down at the arena this morning.
I'll go down and interview him.
Right, yeah, yes, exactly. Yeah, I think you should.
Yes,
man.
and if you go down, how do you blame Donald Trump's tariffs for this firing of Michael Malone?
Right.
Yes,
Exactly.
Yes, exactly.
It all comes together.
Yes.
Weaves in nicely. All right, our other top story.
I'm telling you, these countries are calling us up, kissing my ass. They are dying to make a deal. Please, sir, make a deal. I'll do anything. I'll do anything, sir. And then I'll see some rebel Republican, some guy that wants to grandstand, say, I think that Congress should take over negotiations. Let me tell you, you don't negotiate like I negotiate.
47 at the NRCC last night, letting loose with truth. Yes, markets will feel some turbulence this morning, already are, but DJT trying to correct decades of mistakes, and China says it'll take resolute and effective measures to protect its interests in response to steep tariffs. The president is imposing tariffs of 104% on Chinese imports. They took effect at midnight.
I'm proud to be the president for the workers, not the outsourcers. The president who stands up for Main Street, not Wall Street, who protects the middle class, not the political class, and who defends America, not trade cheaters all over the globe. They're trade cheaters. They cheated on us. They cheated with tariffs on us. They stole our money. They stole our jobs.
Stephen Miller.
The president is focusing on the number one bad global actor responsible for these trading imbalances, responsible for the erosion of our manufacturing base, responsible for the undermining of our domestic and national security, and that's China, because their industrial policies in a very targeted way have focused on dismantling the American industrial base. And that's the reason why so many of our factories and plants have been shuttered over all these years. President Trump is correcting that.
You know, we were talking about egos with the NBA and the Nuggets and firing the head coach. Hey, guess what? There's some egos in politics as well. President Trump took the opportunity to describe the lizard swamp creature Adam Schiff last night. Should be in prison, honestly, after dragging 47 through hell with the huge Russiagate. Russiagate. And right now my computer froze. I'll play that in a second, and I will continue. Midwest gas prices could rise in the coming days after the Keystone oil pipeline ruptured Tuesday in North Dakota. The cause of the spill isn't yet known, but an employee nearby reported hearing a mechanical bang before shutting down the pipeline about 2 minutes later. That is very suspicious given the climate that we are in right now. And we will talk about...
Leftists are so peaceful. I don't...
Yes.
What?
I know.
I'm sure there's nothing.
Nothing shady happening
right.
there.
They're not destroying other people's cars or dealerships or anything like that.
Exactly.
Going after a oil pipeline?
Oh, yeah.
Huh.
Wow. That nothing crazy there.
Right.
I mean, it seems normal. Health officials are confirming a third case of measles in Colorado, this time with a possible troubling implication. Everybody had the measles when I was a kid, by the way. The adult, it seemed like, the adult in question in Archuleta County had traveled recently, raising concerns about possible community transmission. Earlier cases were reported in Pueblo and Denver, but they don't appear to be connected. All right, Trump on Adam Schiff.
And that's with all of the difficulties and all of the fake investigations and the Adam Shifty Schiffs. Can you believe this guy? He's got the smallest neck I've ever seen. And the biggest head. We call him watermelon head. I'd say, how could that big fat face stand on a neck that looked like this finger? How can it? It was the weirdest thing. It's a mystery. Nobody can understand it.
I've heard analysts go, he has this comedic side to him.
Yes.
That just people find hilarious, and
yes.
he could have his own stand-up specials.
He could. And immature people like me in their late 50s, man, who sometimes act like teenagers like me, I love it. But see, we all know what Adam Schiff did to him.
Yes.
So I don't blame him. I don't blame him a bit. So, I mean, just the description, it just reminded me of
watermelon on a finger.
Yes, I can hear my brothers, describing me or someone like, growing up. And then when I hear that, it makes me smile. All right, the Avalanche 3-2 over the Golden Knights. I do not think they're going to fire their coach tonight or today. We shall see. But I doubt it. They seem to be playing well. 41. News brought to you by Lair Fireplace and Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills, locally owned and operated since 1954. Online at lairfireplacepatio.com. 41 in Lone Tree, 40 in Englewood, 43 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue. Billy is back. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
We're talking about the firing of Michael Malone that just kind of caught a lot of us off guard. 8422. This is where I'm landing on this, guys. I just disagree with you, Blake and Bill, on this. The Nuggets have made some stupid moves in their history, but this is by far the worst move in team history. No class. 8422 says, I find it amazing that institutions where people have spent a lot of time and energy pouring their hearts into can just throw somebody out sometimes when you could easily, from my perspective, make the transition out and make it a win for everybody. Thank the person for their hard work, dedication. Give them a little bit of honoring for what they've done. It goes a long way with the person. It goes a long way with the fans. No one expects you to hold on to an employee forever, especially if you have a losing record. But I don't know. I mean, has this ever happened to you? Have you ever been fired unexpectedly after you've put a lot into an institution and felt like you were betrayed? It happened to Elon Musk. It happened to Elon Musk at least twice with companies he built where boards took over and then kicked him out. So you're not alone out there. What do you think? 303-696-1971 or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line 720-819-5115. Speaking of Dan Caplis, I've known this guy for well over a decade. Pro-life, pro-family, pro-faith, pro-America. He's right there on the issues. That matters because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says a lot about you to everyone involved in the case. You want a guy that's committed to your values and committed to justice. He spent 40 years of his life helping people who are hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. But more than that, Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. He's a real winner here in the state of Colorado. Dan Caplis Law is so trusted that he's the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. I wonder if he got a call yesterday. Maybe from Michael Malone. Dan Caplis Law is a serious firm for serious cases. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. So if you need Dan's help, give him a call, 303-770-5551. That's 303-770-5551. Or hit dancaplisLaw.com. That's Dan, CAPLIS Law.com. We'll continue with your phone calls and texts. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We're talking the firing of Michael Malone that took place by the Denver Nuggets yesterday. Kind of caught a lot of us off guard. I'm not a big sports guy in the sense I follow all the players and all the stats and all the records, but I had a generally very positive disposition towards Michael Malone. He brought us 6 playoff berths, 1 national championship, and then just randomly it's gone. Bill, had you heard there were problems with him?
Yeah, and again, I didn't. I had heard just a little bit, but I was talking to my brother. He had a lot more information. He said the relationship between Michael Malone and general manager Calvin Booth was awful, was really, really bad, he said. And it's because, in his mind, different philosophies based on approach to basketball, that how Malone wants to structure the team and what he's looking for is different than what Calvin Booth was looking for and trying to structure the team. And, oh God, there was one player that I forgot who my brother said. Pickens, I think, something like that. I have to go back and look at the text messages. That he said there's one player that was kind of a good encapsulation of the tension between the two. That Booth wanted this kid to start because he thinks he has a high basketball IQ, and Michael Malone is like, yes, but physically he can't compete. He is going to get pushed around inside the NBA, and that's what we are seeing in practice, that his brain is good, but he's out-muscled in every other aspect of the game, and that can't help us translate on the court. And he also talked about the Russell Westbrook issue, because that was part of the issue, is that Westbrook was brought in to solve the problem of this backup point guard that Booth liked, that Malone really, really disliked. And the rumor had been, there are a couple of Denver sports media places that my brother is really, really tapped into, and said there had been some tension between Booth and Michael Malone over the past couple of weeks, because down the stretch at the end of games, this backup point guard played early, but when it was crunch time, it was Russell Westbrook that was getting all the minutes, and the Nuggets were losing. And so the GM was using that as an argument of, why aren't you playing my guy? My guy could probably help us maybe win. And Malone is like, no, we just lose more. And so it became an intractable situation between the two of them as far as a relationship, that there was nothing that was going to be done because neither one of them were going to budge based on how they viewed basketball. And Booth has a reputation of being a basketball savant, being a guy who really understands the X's and O's and is a great evaluator of talent. That's his reputation. However, he's hot and cold in Denver. Some of the players he's brought in, a Christian Braun and stuff like that, have been good, but near history, not as good. His recent signings, not as good as they were a couple of years ago, and so that's kind of a problem as well. Also, my brother said that Calvin Booth has very little, if any, interpersonal skills. Is his impression. Is the guy's just really, he can't talk to people. Now, he's just not good one-on-one, and that creates a barrier in this type of situation.
You've experienced some interesting timing when it comes to your employment.
Yeah. I've been fired on vacation a couple of times. Been fired after my father's funeral. Been fired a number of times that are just like, yeah, that's fantastic. This is not expected. In fact, almost fired 3 times on vacation. I just decided not to take vacation on that particular spread. Otherwise, it would have been 3 times. So that would have been really fun. Yeah, it's never easy, nor do they care. It's never. Yeah, right. They don't care at all. It has zero. To do
I guess that just bothers me, man. I've had people work with me, and obviously I've had to terminate folks in the past, and there were some tense moments. I'm not talking about that, but when it's just not working out, and you can't let them off in a good way, because so I guess I see it in 2 different categories. One is the bridge is burned, right? Either something was done to the point that the relationship can't be reconciled, so you're out of here. Yeah, we're gone. We're done. See ya. And we probably won't ever talk again. Okay, I get that. But then secondly, when you have people that have devoted a lot of time and energy, and for whatever reason, maybe the clients aren't coming in or the money's not there or whatever, and it's just not working out. To fire somebody on their vacation or the day after your dad's funeral, like you were talking about.
Oh, yeah.
That just bothers me. Like, you're probably going to work together again at some point. So find a way to do it well.
Yep. And one of the companies that fired me on vacation did go back and work with them later. Yes. Because, again...
Maybe I'm too sensitive.
Well, the issue is their money is green and said USA on it. And so that's about the barrier I have, in all honesty, in many cases. That's about the only barrier I got. Yeah.
That is funny. All right. Well, we've got You Choose the News coming up. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. It's that time of morning where we got to give the people what they want. Some You Choose the News, Bill.
Yes, it is time for America's favorite fake radio news game show. We took yesterday off, but we are back with a vengeance. It's time for You Choose the News. Yes, you know how this works. I spent moments this morning scouring the interwebs for really, really dumb stories about us humans and giving them even more ridiculous headlines so that we can play this fake radio news game show. Why would we do this? Because, well, we are left unsupervised at this time of the morning. Nobody wakes up that is in charge until 7 o'clock, and this is what happens when nobody in charge knows what we are doing. Yes, lesson to our parents when we were growing up. Boy, did they learn a lot. Alrighty, now, Jeff Hunt is in the studio. Blake Olson joins us from the newsroom. Gentlemen, here are your stories this morning. Headline number 1, adult allowance fight. Headline number 2, stomp in a mud hole in Satan. Headline number 3, science is hard. And headline number 4, never forget. Mr. Hunt,
let's go down to the Colorado State Capitol for the adult allowance fight.
Yes, adult allowance fight. A Belgian prince has lost his legal battle to claim Social Security benefits on top of his royal allowance. Huh. Yes, Prince Laurent, the youngest of 3 children of the former king and queen, had argued that his work entitled him to coverage and granted him the ability to claim Social Security because his royal allowance just wasn't enough. I mean, what's a prince supposed to live on these days? The Brussels court found that the 61-year-old duties were more akin to those in the civil service, and that was a category of worker that do not receive the specific Social Security benefits that he was asking for. But again, he has fallen on hard times. In 2018, his annual state allowance was cut by 15% for only a year. Because he met with foreign dignitaries without the federal government.
Do we know how much his allowance is?
Yeah, just about $400,000 a year. Yes, and he was struggling so mightily that he needed Social Security. I mean,
it is hard to be a prince on $400,000.
It is so hard. It is so difficult. Yeah. I mean, when your other friends have 3 and 4 yachts and you got 2, what are you going to do? They're going to tease you, little yacht boy, little yacht boy. I mean, what do you do? Yes. Oh, who only went on 3 cruises this year? Yeah, that's great. Artie, Blake Olson, sir, your choices: stomp in a mud hole in Satan, science is hard, or never forget.
Let's go with science is hard.
Yeah, science is oh so very hard. That's what the owners of Captain's Quarters Riverside Grill in Prospect, Kentucky are going to find out. They have taken an unusual approach to protect their riverfront restaurant from floodwaters. Faced with rising floodwaters from the Ohio River, just this past weekend, they filled the entire building with fresh water to keep out the salty floodwater. They disconnected all the kitchen equipment and electrical panels beforehand. The strategy is to prevent the dirty floodwater from entering the building, but the owners are concerned that if the outside waters rise above 6 feet, it could breach the ductwork, the windows or doors, and bring all the dirty salt water and all the feces and stuff that's in the water during the floodwaters inside. And they're going to discover they're wrong. That's not how science works. Fresh water is less dense than salt water, so it separates and sits on top. So what will happen is the dirty salt water will come in and go all over the floors and the lower part of the building and sit there, and they've already pre-flooded the building, which because they've done it to themselves, that's going to violate their insurance claim.
Oh, great.
Yeah, exactly. They have no idea what they have just done. They have done this to themselves. Their insurance claim is going to be invalid, and the salt water is coming in the building. It's not going to be avoidable, guys. That's just science.
Horrible.
I know. A couple minutes on Google, and they could have figured that out. But, again, science
was
is
it
hard.
a prince in Belgium that came up with that idea?
Yes, it was. He said, for the low price of $400,000 a year, I will do science for you. All righty. Final choice this morning, Jeff Hunt. Stomp in a mud hole in Satan or never forget?
Stomp on the mud hole with Satan.
Stomp in a mud hole in Satan. Yes, this is an important one. And shout out to my buddy Adam down the hall. He's going to enjoy this one. We travel to Shipley, England for this one. They've been kind of struggling recently at St. Peter's Anglican Church to put butts in the seats. So they have a brand new way to bring the kids in. They're going to stomp a mud hole in Satan. They are laying the smackdown on sin. They are going into the steel cage of righteousness. They are becoming a wrestling church. They are going to be hosting wrestling matches either before or after services.
I love it.
It is the brainchild of a 37-year-old Gareth Thompson who recently said he was saved by both Jesus and professional wrestling. He said that when he was going through his love of professional wrestling, he realized there are a lot of the same morality plays. Good versus evil, Cain versus Abel, things like that, David versus Goliath, that you have inside of the Bible are reflected in the morality play you see in the ring. And so he tells stories based on things that happen in the Bible, but they actually get to punch and hit each other in real life in the wrestling ring. I'm just telling you, I'm not saying this is a good or bad idea, but I'll tell you, little Billy would have been first into church each and every weekend if there was wrestling.
See?
Just saying.
And I think David would have been there as well from the Bible.
Would have loved it, man.
Right.
That is great. That's it. That's the end of You Choose the News. Back to you.
David, Joshua, they're all fighters. So
Exactly.
They would have loved this stuff,
It would have been so much fun.
All right. You'll never guess what the Colorado State Capitol is doing next.
Pro
we'll
wrestling?
get to it. That would be better. You're listening to Jeff and Bill.
This is KNUS.
It is 7 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Wednesday, April 9th, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned in to the Jeff and Bill Show. News Talk 710, KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Congratulations. You're waking up in the greatest country in history. Donald Trump's your president. We're off and running. The only hiccup, Democrats are making up the state legislature, and you'll never guess what they've proposed to do. In the midst of a $1.2 billion budget shortfall, they have decided that amidst cuts to education, no money for roads, all the stuff we're dealing with, crime, homelessness, they have set aside $4 million to address those issues. Nope. To fight Donald Trump. A legal fund coming from the Colorado State Legislature to support Jared Polis and Phil Weiser to the tune of $4 million. Just keep that in mind when they want to take away Tabor because they don't have enough money for their other projects. We'll get to this and more, but now is time for Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Good morning, 42 and sunny on Hump Day in Denver, expecting a high of 72 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story.
I'm telling you, these countries are calling us up, kissing my ass. They are dying to make a deal. Please, sir, make a deal. I'll do anything. I'll do anything, sir. And then I'll see some rebel Republican, some guy that wants to grandstand, say, I think that Congress should take over negotiations. Let me tell you, you don't negotiate like I negotiate.
47 at the NRCC last night, and he just let it fly. Wanted to make sure that he made it on the Jeff and Bill show, evidently. Yes, markets will be feeling it this morning and are, and DJT trying to correct decades of mistakes. And China says it'll take resolute and effective measures to protect their interests in response to the president imposing tariffs of 104% on Chinese imports. They took effect at midnight. Pharmaceuticals will be crucial in this scenario.
We're going to tariff our pharmaceuticals, and once we do that, they're going to come rushing back into our country because we're the big market. The advantage we have over everybody is that we're the big market. So we're going to be announcing very shortly a major tariff on pharmaceuticals, and when they hear that, they will leave China, they will leave other places because they have to sell. Most of their product is sold here.
Lizard swamp creature Adam Schiff put DJT and his family through hell almost 10 years ago. He's a criminal, and 47 is never going to forgive him or forget Schiff.
And that's with all of the difficulties and all of the fake investigations and the Adam Shifty Schiffs. Can you believe this guy? He's got the smallest neck I've ever seen. And the biggest head. We call him watermelon head. I'd say, how could that big fat face stand on a neck that looked like this finger? How could it? It was the weirdest thing. It's a mystery. Nobody.
It's a roast. Sorry.
It's a roast.
It is. It's a roast, man. If you can't throw him in jail right now, roast him.
Well, and when you watch the left lose their minds, they become like unhinged, and they just lots of curse words and Nazi and fascist and all that stuff. But those are actually quite entertaining little roasts.
They are, man. He's getting better too, I think. Oh man, I love it. Speaking of cheats, Doge uncovers more of these criminals. Stuart Varney on Fox.
Doge has found that immigration gave a work authorization document to illegals just 5 months after they filed for asylum. That document allowed them to work while they waited to hear whether their asylum request had been accepted or denied. So they could work as an illegal, knowing it would take years before their case was heard.
Yes.
The Immigration Department mailed them a social security number. No interview, no proof of identity. They just put it in the mail. Here's your number. In 2021, Doge says 270,000 new aliens were issued Social Security numbers. 590,000 in 2022, 964,000 in 2023, and 2.1 million in 24, right before Biden left office.
What? Yeah, what a shocker. Health officials are confirming a third case of measles in Colorado, this time with a possible troubling implication. The adult in question in Archuleta County had not traveled recently, raising concerns about possible community transmission. At least 113 are dead after the roof collapse at a nightclub in the Dominican Republic on Tuesday. Among the dead are 2 former Major League Baseball players, and my mother-in-law lives just 10 minutes away, and understandably, she is extremely upset. Tragic story. Right now, the count is at least 113 dead. Midwest gas prices could rise in the coming days after the Keystone oil pipeline ruptured Tuesday in North Dakota. The cause of the spill isn't yet known, but an employee nearby reported hearing a mechanical bang before shutting down the pipeline about 2 minutes later. That is extremely suspicious given the climate that we are in right now. Speaking of fuel, Charles Payne on the market and reaction.
What we're not talking about is oil was $76, now it's $65. Gasoline prices are going to plummet. Any other time, that would be the #1 story. In fact, if you go to the polls, what will get you elected as president? Much cheaper gasoline or Wall Street crying? I'm just being honest about it, right? So, yeah, people have these stocks in their 401ks, and guess what? We've been through it. There's a correction on average every year. There's a bear market every couple of years. I think most people are accustomed to that.
Nuggets head coach Michael Malone and GM Calvin Booth both have been fired. Great timing. President Josh Kroenke said right before the playoffs, said that things weren't trending in the right direction and just let them go. See you later.
Get that big stuff out of here.
Welcome to professional sports. David Adelman, Rick Adelman's son, Rick Adelman, long time head coach, basketball guy, takes over as the interim head coach, and guess what? I bet they'll win games. It depends how Jokic and everyone else plays, and I'm going to make a prediction. I bet they go deep in the playoffs. How's about that?
Really? All right, let's lay this out.
Okay, let's go.
Okay,
I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you it doesn't
crashed
matter.
in the first round.
Okay, I love it.
All right, and so what are we wagering then?
Definitely lunch.
All right.
Or pancakes next week. How about that? At IHOP.
Will we know by next week?
No, we won't.
I don't even.
But I'm not paying at IHOP, so. Yeah, I say lunch. I'll buy you lunch.
All right, I'll buy you lunch.
Okay.
If the Nuggets get past the first round.
Oh, really? The first round, huh?
Well,
okay.
But you said they're going deep. You said they're going deep.
Okay.
I'd say
deep is to let's see, to the semis. How about that?
All right.
I'm gonna make a wild prediction. I hear you. That would be probably the intelligent choice, but I'm out on the limb here.
All right.
And I'm gonna say they go to the semifinals because Michael Malone wasn't crying for me when I lost my job at altitude. Okay. I mean, oh my God, Blake's leaving. He didn't give a damn.
He should have.
He should have.
Because you're the best, man.
Because you're
like a diamond in the rough that we got here. You got the best. We're the best thing going on in the show.
I mean, I did a feature on him and made him look like the greatest NBA coach in the world. I'm like, please, and I'm like, Melvin Hunt could do the same thing, please. I learned too much from the late great Irv Brown, man. I mean, NBA basketball, coach is important, but Irv and Joe would talk about it all the time. Joe was funny because it's like, it's a regular season game, right? It's an NBA game. Nobody cares. Who cares? But I truly believe there are 1,000 coaches out there that could coach this team into the semifinals. And yes, right before the playoffs begin. By the way,
this is wild, man.
All right, I'm gonna have fun. We'll see if I buy you lunch soon.
Yeah.
All right. The Avalanche beat the Golden Knights in a shootout last night, 3-2. to 2. 41 in Lone Tree, 40 in Englewood, 42 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue.
Right. The fact is, ain't none of y'all trying to go and farm right now.
I don't know. She hadn't met Jeff yet.
That's my happy place right now.
Yeah,
is farming.
I know, man.
I don't farm
thought
that
of you
much, but I mean, yeah, just being out on the ranch, that is a good place to be.
Hey, you have chickens, man.
Yeah.
You know, you have eggs. Hey, you know what? I'm going to bet you eggs.
Oh, that's good.
I'll buy you lunch, and then you give me
some fresh eggs. I'll give you 2 dozen. 2 dozen.
Two
works.
dozen eggs, fresh eggs. My wife will be happy with me, and I'll buy you lunch if they don't. All right?
Perfect.
Okay, and let me take this entire thing sideways. Speaking of chickens, have you guys heard about the new restriction because of chickens and the Minecraft movie?
What?
Have you heard about this?
No, I haven't heard
Yes, there are
about
new
this.
restrictions at movie theaters over the Minecraft movie, and specifically chickens. Here's the story.
Can't bring a live one?
No, well, that would be quite an accomplishment. Here's the story. If people remember the trailer, there's a point in the trailer where there appears to be a wrestling ring, and there is a chicken in one corner of the ring. And then one of the creepers or zombies in Minecraft drops on top of the chicken, and you see Jack Black. It cuts to him, and he yells, "Chicken jockey!" Now, when that scene hits in the theaters, the younger generations are losing their freaking minds.
Really?
They are going crazy.
Chicken jockeys.
Chicken jockey. And so all it is when they yell that, it's like some sort of a call to act a fool, and the place goes nuts.
Really?
They've actually, on several occasions, they've had to stop the theater performance. They've stopped the movie and had the police escort people out because they've been breaking things in the theater during chicken jockey scene. Yes. And so now I know in Jersey, and I forget there's one other place where they've now instituted a rule that during certain times of the day, nobody under the age of 16 can enter the theater without an adult if they're going to go see Minecraft, because the chicken jockey scene, they're tired of kids. I mean, I guess
No
in
way.
one theater, they tore seats off the ground. They put holes in the
Really?
wall. Yeah, but
It's
again,
like
you
a
can
mosh
find,
pit,
yeah,
like what
exactly.
you were
Yes.
in last
What you need to do is you can search for chicken jockey videos on social media, and you can see these kids. But again, think about it this way. Think about if you took in early high school or middle school and took a bunch of your friends, packed you all into a theater, and you had one thing where they yell chicken jockey, went crazy, no parents around.
Yeah.
What's going to happen?
Yeah, you're
There
going to
are
end
some
up
kids that are gonna
with
go too
some
far.
total chaos.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
the weird thing I have growing up with chickens
Yeah.
is I played Zelda a ton when I was a
Oh,
kid.
yeah, there you go, yeah.
And they would always, like, if you attack the chickens, they'd all flock together and
yeah.
stuff like that. So I when I walk around our ranch, we have some like 30 chickens, and I'm having Link flashbacks.
That's fantastic.
What was it
We'll have to
called?
go find-
Zelda?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
Legend of Zelda.
Yeah, Legend of
Never heard
Zelda.
of it.
What?
Never heard.
No,
I have
you
never
can't- you
heard.
could
I am not
no.
your video
Wait,
game guy.
You've never heard of Legend of
I
Zelda?
have never heard of that.
Because again,
Absolutely
and
not.
again, there's a delineation as to which games you play, because some of them are different than the others.
Yeah,
based on,
This was the OG, man.
Oh, that's a
really?
good one.
I gotta check that out.
Jeez.
I haven't played a
So-
video game since Spawn.
See,
I
I
mean,
mean,
but-
I was gonna throw out the idea that Jeff doesn't even know the struggles of dealing with chickens and ostriches like in Joust, but I don't even know if you know Joust, Blake.
No, I don't
You
know
don't know
what
Joust?
Joust
Oh,
is. I have no idea what
that
Joust
hurts.
is.
Oh, that hurts. Joust was a fantastic video game.
I have no
That's
idea of
fantastic.
of which or what or
Oh, my
whatever you
gosh.
speak.
That's
It is
funny.
all Greek to me.
Oh,
Everything,
Joust is
everything that you're
fantastic.
saying. All right, you guys take over. Blake
Okay.
Olson, News Talk 710.
That's
KNUS.
Love that.
Very mild for Denver in the Front Range today and tomorrow, but today and tomorrow do expect some mid and high level clouds, and it might get a little bit breezy. We'll be low 70s today, near 70 tomorrow, deep into the 70s as we get into late Thursday and especially by Friday and Saturday. Breezy periods, likely dry until maybe a chance Sunday and Monday for showers. Weather sponsored by Colorado's Best Roofing, reminding you to protect your home from the harsh Colorado weather and schedule your free no-obligation roof inspection today at roofingcolorado.com. That's roofingcolorado.com. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Now, Bill.
Yes.
Suzanne is not happy with us. She texted in.
She doesn't like the chicken jockeys?
She thinks Billy's the greatest thing going for this show.
No,
and
not
the
at all.
idea I said Blake was offensive to her. She thinks I'm intimidated by Billy. The
No,
truth
I'm the
is
problem.
I am. I'm very intimidated.
No, you're not.
So.
I'm the problem on the show. That's the thing is, I'm just every day I am surprised that my door code still works. Yes, I know that I am not the flavor of Salem media, and they understand that, and I appreciate
We
the
love
grace.
you on this show.
I appreciate that so much.
It was Conservative Mama was great yesterday.
Yeah. I appreciate
that. But it's so great to have you back.
Oh, thank you, sir. And now I want to take a moment to sell some stuff. You know how we do? We got to do that thing here where we make the monies. Yes, the money's monies, and what I need you to do is to reach out to my friends at Wound Care Associates of Colorado. Here's the reason. These are people that I'm really excited to work with because they're helping someone in my family, and I saw the consequence of not getting the proper help in my family as well. So when they came a-calling, I was more than happy to be a spokesperson for Wound Care Associates of Colorado. Here's what they do. If you or someone in your life has a slow-healing cut, a diabetic ulcer, or a pressure sore, that little problem can turn into a very, very big problem. I saw it in my own life with my aunt. She had a chronic wound on her leg. At time, the treatment facility was just maintaining the wound. That means keeping it open, not actually promoting healing. And, you know, that torn skin tissue can just let dirt germs and bacteria in at any point in time. Anytime you contact them, that is a highway. It's like a flashing sign at a club. All enter, free access. That's what that open wound was, and my aunt developed MRSA. That led to some awful health complications, some bouts in and out of the hospital lasting days, weeks, even months at times, and some amputations. So recently, when my youngest had a little bit of elective surgery, but the incision wasn't closing properly, we did go see the surgeon a couple of times, and then he mentioned that word. We are going to maintain the wound. Nope, no, we're not, Doc. Nuh-uh. Nope, no way, no how. We weren't out of the office and in the car before I was on coloradowound.com, and making an appointment with Wound Care Associates of Colorado. Yes, I'm working with them, but I went through the booking process just like you do because I wanted to experience it, and I feel bad saying, hey, you know me, I'm working with you. How about you do something special for me? No, not at all. We went to coloradowound.com, and set up a private, personalized appointment for my daughter. Now, here's the cool part, okay? First of all, Wound Care Associates of Colorado does it better because they promote better healing outcomes. They want your skin and tissue to heal, to knit back together, and prevent the dirt, germs, and bacteria from getting into your body. Yeah, shocking, huh? I know. That's not what happened with my aunt, so that's why I wasn't taking the chance with my youngest. There was no way I was going to mess around after seeing what happened to her. So we contacted Wound Care Associates of Colorado. What she's going through right now, the healing is absolutely remarkable. I was just talking to her yesterday about it, and she's like, it's doing great. Now, here's the other cool part, is that Wound Care Associates of Colorado take a lot of the stress and ease out of getting to the doctor's appointment off of your mind because they come to you. You don't have to worry about changing your schedule to make sure you get to their facility, factor in that drive time, all the other stuff. No, they come to your home, and in the private comfort and convenience of your house, they set up a private treatment plan that will promote faster healing. Here's the cool part. You've got a friend or a family member that's in a retirement or assisted living facility, they go to them. You don't have to worry about getting your friend, your loved one, the transportation. You don't have to get maybe the shuttle from the place, or you've got to go take them and sit with them at the office and get them back home. I know it's nice to spend time with them, but you don't need that stress, and you don't have to deal with it with Wound Care Associates of Colorado because they will come directly to your loved one to set up a personalized treatment plan that will give you better healing outcomes. There's nobody else in Colorado doing it this way. And again, better healing outcomes. Heal that wound. Don't just ignore the wound or maintain it. That can lead to some awful things. Trust me. I know. I saw it in my life. So don't mess around. Contact Wound Care Associates of Colorado if you or anybody in your life is dealing with a pressure sore, a diabetic ulcer, a slow healing cut. Reach out to them today. coloradowound.com. coloradowound.com. When this was important in my life to my kids, that's what I did. Don't mess around. You can trust them. I trust them as well. coloradowound.com. coloradowound.com for Wound Care Associates of Colorado. And when you tell them you need an appointment, tell them you heard about them here on the Jeff and Bill Show because it helps us out. Back to you, Jeff.
That's exactly right. Well, that's good news. Bad news for the rest of us in Colorado is what's happening down at the Colorado State Capitol. So if you remember, They're already using your tax dollars in an effort to launch a lawsuit to take all your tax dollars by getting rid of Tabor. That lawsuit will be defended using your tax dollars. So, your tax dollars are just flying out. Now, if you remember, we're in a $1.2 billion budget deficit, which means we don't have money for roads or schools. It's been sucked up on all these special projects. A reminder, yes, rich kids are getting free lunches thanks to taxpayers in the state of Colorado. So you have all these problems we're facing. We're out of money. And what do the lawmakers down at the Colorado State Capitol decide to do in light of that? Set aside $4 million to fund lawsuits against Donald Trump. Yes, these are your tax dollars. Reporting from the Denver Post, Colorado officials ready legal defense fund against Trump cuts and potential investigations. Colorado legislators are fast-tracking the creation of a $4 million fund to help Governor Jared Polis's office defend against actions by the Trump administration, including potential criminal investigations, as policymakers grapple with frozen funding and uncertainty from the federal government. Using state money set aside to match federal dollars, U.S. House Bill 1321 would establish a fund to hire staff or contractors to defend against threats to federal funding that's due to the state. The money could also be spent on reimbursing the Colorado Attorney General's office should its attorneys have to defend state leaders and employees against legal and criminal proceedings filed against them. Don't you love that? Isn't that great? Criminal proceedings. You're going to get your own taxpayer-funded defense attorney, you state employee. That would include potential inquiries from Congress, like what Mikey Johnston had to do. This is my favorite part, should the $4 million prove insufficient, the bill would allow Polis's office to accept gifts, grants, and donations to add to the fund, meaning the state could essentially use crowdfunding to defend itself and its funding streams from the Trump administration. The measure comes as hundreds of millions of dollars are set to flow into Colorado, have been abruptly frozen, and in most cases, unfrozen by the federal government in the weeks since President Donald Trump returned to office. Attorney General Phil Weiser has filed or joined more than a dozen lawsuits against the Trump administration related to funding concerns and to other actions taken by the president. All right, look, Bill, I don't have any problem.
Yeah.
You want to crowdsource, you want to use your own hard-earned money to go empower Phil Weiser to sue the president, I don't have any problem. In fact, go for it. I think you want to spend your money doing that? By all means, you have every right to do that. Okay. We're a $1.2 billion budget shortfall, and this just confirms to me again and again and again that our lawmakers are not statesmen. They're not people that are finding ways to make our lives better. No. They're political activists. They don't like the president, and they want to use your dollars, taxpayers' dollars, in an already restricted budget environment to go fight the president. We're just governed by political activists. That's how I see it. Your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, I think you're right about the political activist side of this because I don't know. It's an old joke, but the way that I sometimes see Phil Weiser is the idea that he's never seen a camera he dislikes. I mean, the joke goes that when he goes late at night to the fridge, opens it up to get a snack and light goes on, he does 5 minutes. I mean, that's an old joke, but that's kind of what I see, that he's always trying to get in front of the camera. And I agree with what you're saying about the idea of using taxpayer money and setting it aside for the specific stated reason of fighting Trump. I am of the opinion that since there are residents here in Colorado that, based on medical bills and housing issues, have to start GoFundMes because of serious situations that are happening inside of their life with their loved ones, people having some sort of tragic accident or some sort of a diagnosis, and the insurance isn't going to pay for it, and it's too much out of pocket, and the deductible this and deductible that. Because we are setting up crowdfunding for healthcare, crowdfund your stupid lawyers. Do it. Go right ahead. Don't turn around and take the money out of the taxpayers when you don't have a budget surplus. I understand wanting to fight Trump and wanting to do this based on politics, but this also, you need to sit down and look at this as far as budget priorities. And if you were going to sit down with your loved ones around the family table or even at your business, and you were trying to set forward priorities, my guess are things like rent, insurance, paying the employees a wage, raw materials for the products you're producing, stuff like that, transportation, marketing, all hit before lawsuits against the president. Now, if those lawsuits were coming directly necessarily at your business, there might be a place there, but where does that rank? And I understand the idea that President Trump is coming after certain programs and certain policies, but it's not necessarily just Colorado. If he was doing the game that he's playing with Maine, I would be much more sympathetic, because he's trying to prove a point to the Maine governor. He called her out in a public forum that he didn't need to. He didn't like the fact that she pushed back, and now he has directed his departments and his administrators to go after Maine in whatever way possible. So they are trying to, basically, and I think even there's one of his secretaries that basically in an email admitted, yes, this is revenge. He didn't say it exactly that way, but it was, the bottom line is, no, we're doing this to teach them a lesson. So they're doing it out of revenge, which isn't going to help the legal filings. But if we were in that situation, I'm much more sympathetic to the idea that we need to defend ourselves. But from the rampant weirdness of Doge and the random cuts and the tariffs, no, you need to crowdfund that. You need to find that, because I don't think that's a priority over some of our other budget issues, that we need to make sure that things are taken care of here before we go play in the courts. And the other reason that I'm really, really angry about this idea of them grabbing the $4 million is, let's go through just recent history the past few years when our leaders, Denver Mayor Mike Johnston, Phil Weiser, and others, had the opportunity to go to court. Who'd they choose? Mayor Mike Johnston went to the silk stocking lawyers in D.C. He didn't spend that money here. Now, if you're talking about taking $4 million in taxpayer money and spending it on Colorado lawyers, I might be able to walk down that road with you. What did Phil Weiser do? He went out of state and brought in people that had no prosecutorial experience to do pieces of the Elijah McClain case and other cases. He brought in people that had never done criminal cases before and weren't frickin' residents of the state you live in. So that money went out of state to pay rent in other states, to pay insurance premiums in other states, to go to restaurants in other states, to buy cars in other states. Why in the hell am I going to sign up to take $4 million of the Colorado taxpayer money and give it to lawyers in other states? They want to talk to Chris Murray, friend of the show. They want to talk to other lawyers here. I mean, that's fine. Well, at least we've got a reason.
Most attorneys aren't hurting that much. But,
no, not at all. But at least you can make an argument that you're reinvesting in the state, not sending the money outside of the state.
Cherry Hills Country Club.
Yes.
How much into this equation does our success rate at the U.S. Supreme Court matter? Because, and I don't know, I don't have the list in front of me, but I could tell you, let's just go through the list in my mind. The keep Donald Trump off the ballot effort, that went down 9-0. Jack Phillips goes to the U.S. Supreme Court twice and wins against the state. Lori Smith goes to the U.S. Supreme Court, wins against the state. Now you've got this other conversion therapy ban case that was granted cert, which means it's going before the U.S. Supreme Court. Probably not going to win. So it's not like we've got this great track record of spending existing taxpayer dollars to defend our existing laws, going to the U.S. Supreme Court and winning. Ergo, Colorado is this great defender of constitutional freedoms. The $4 million is a benefit not just to the people of Colorado, but to the entire nation because of all these great victories we've had. No, it just seems time and time again, it's special interests that have driven these laws. They've been slapped down at the U.S. Supreme Court, and now they want to spend $4 million to continue to defend these. But, Bill, I went to the Bernie Bros rally.
Oh, yeah,
30,000 people deeply committed to the radically leftist progressive wing of the Democrat Party. That is where the energy is. There's talks of primarying John Hickenlooper and bringing more aggressive, progressive activists to the leadership of our Democrat Party. I think the people of Colorado look at this and go, 4 million? Why not 40 million? Fight the imperialist Donald Trump and use our taxpayer dollars to do so.
I would disagree with you simply because, if the choice is, should we use this taxpayer money to fight Donald Trump, all of them at the rally would say yes. But if you instead ask the more prescient question of, should we use this money to fight Donald Trump instead of using it to do X, Y, and Z?
Great point.
Instead of continuing the free lunch program for kids? Should we use it instead of expanding light rail? Let's play with that one. Should we do it instead of protecting more wildlife resources? Should we do it instead of improving roads and bridges? Should we do it instead of paying teachers more? What is it you want to trade off? Because this isn't a bag of magic beans that the state legislature found on the way to market. That's not what happened. So this isn't magic money. The money that is going to go into this fund has to come away from somewhere else because we do not have a surplus. If you have a surplus, that's extra money, but we are in a deficit. And because of that, you need to take money from somewhere else where it could be spent. So are you willing to not spend that $4 million on some projects that you think are important? Would you prefer, let's just play this game, would you prefer to have them spend $4 million on, I don't know, safe drug injection sites? That's a pet.
Heroin Barbie.
Yeah, ask Brittany Pedersen. Is the spending the $4 million better spent on her safe drug injection site pet project or on fighting Donald Trump in the courts? Where is it? Because
definitely
it is
not
a trade-off.
spent on nannies.
Yeah,
for
no,
Brittany
not at
Pedersen.
all. But the issue is that it is a trade-off. Because of how the Colorado budget is right now, this is a trade-off. So what are you not spending? And I think that even though I do believe there are going to be some big negatives from some of the moves based on the Donald Trump administration, I don't think we have to be the vanguard. I believe that there are a large number of other state attorneys, and we can always join in with their lawsuit, but we don't have to carve out money for ourselves to go ahead and spend that. We can co-sign on something class action, but
they
not.
want that reputation. Phil Weiser wants it so bad to be the leader that took on Donald Trump.
Yes,
because those cocktail parties in Washington, D.C. are calling his name.
Well, it also helps you get to the governor's mansion.
Yes,
that's the thing
that's
here.
exactly
is that
right.
The profile is if he can fight and he can show that he can vanquish the orange one like a dragon, then he will be on the fast track for the governor's seat. That's why he wants this one. Absolutely, he does. And Polis wants it because he, again, wants to position himself as not this weak libertarian governor, but the strong governor that will fight on principle, and so maybe raise his ID number and his name recognition with voters coming into the next primary for president. Yeah, that's exactly. This is all about politics. You are 110% right.
Well, lots of text messages coming in. 4667, Bill, great. Instead of, they put in quotes, way to think about it. Thank you for giving me another way to think about this issue. Janet saying, Billy, you're the spice that makes the food taste good. Glad to have you back. All right, we're going to get to phone calls and texts. You're welcome to join the conversation. The state legislature is going to spend spend $4 million on this, and we'd love to hear from you. 303-696-1971. All right, joining us now is Rory O'Neill, NBC News national correspondent. Good morning, Rory. Thanks for joining the Jeff and Bill program.
Good morning, sir.
Happy Wednesday.
All right, so electric cars a bust, huh? You think that you got some information that, maybe Americans are losing their interest in electric cars?
Well, maybe a bust may be a strong term, but a new poll from Gallup finds that only about half of Americans either have or want to have an EV parked in their driveways. This poll shows essentially the numbers are pretty flat compared to last year, but down from a high of close to 60% 2 years ago. So maybe the bloom is off the rose. Maybe the cars just aren't as cool. But while half of Americans may be interested in an EV, 2/3 are all in when it comes to hybrid vehicles. So I think a lot of Americans are happy to bring on an alternative, but may not think the EV industry is ready just yet.
Yeah, I've been out car shopping, and we're looking for a new car. My daughter just turned 16, so she's getting a car. I've been driving since I brought her home from the hospital in that car. So I've had it for 16 years, and now I'm out looking for new cars. And I looked at hybrids. I looked at electrics. One of the things that concerned me was having to replace a battery in 10 years. And I did the math on what I would save hybrid-wise versus having to put a new battery in. And it seemed to be a bit of a wash. How big of a concern is the battery issue with regards to these electric cars?
Yeah, I think that's still one of the outstanding issues. I know a lot of people who want to buy an EV for environmental purposes then say, we realize that mining for the materials used in the batteries are concerns. The end life of the battery, what happens either to replace it, or then where does that dead battery go? How is it repurposed and recycled, or can it be? I mean, a lot of environmental issues are still not perfect here when it comes to what's still an emerging technology, right? I mean, electric cars themselves have been around for more than a century, but this idea of trying to mass market them and get them out to the masses is still something we're struggling with as you try to look at battery issues, charging issues, how long it takes to charge. Are there enough charging stations on the normal route I might drive?
That, and now you got to retrofit your house. So it became a bunch of hoops to jump through, some uncertainty regarding the future. Meanwhile, we looked at a car, the same company we had for 16 years. It was reliable, easy, and it's gas. All right, we're going to go that direction. We're not going to get into the hybrid or to the electric quite yet. I think there needs to be some more development there. I think that's probably where a lot of people are going. But how do incentives fit into all this? I know Colorado, for instance, gave you quite a bit of a tax break if you bought an electric car. Are the fact that the incentives going away now steering people back into gas?
That could be one of the factors. Also, the idea that gas is not crazy expensive right now, right? I mean, it's about $3.25 a gallon, somewhere in there, maybe under $3 a gallon in some states. But for the most part, the price of the gas is not a concern. Now, if we're at $5, $6 gas again, well, suddenly that electric may look a lot more attractive, or even that hybrid. So the fact that gas prices have come down and stabilized is not good news for the EV market. We're also seeing, obviously the politics has gotten involved in the attacks on Teslas. I think Tesla's now swamped with lots and lots filled with unwanted cyber trucks that they can't get rid of. So, there's a lot of ups and downs, again, in this emerging technology.
Talking with Rory O'Neill, NBC News national correspondent. The newness, the shininess, the excitement around electric cars seeming to wear off a little bit, but it might just be a technological development issue, and maybe they can get there. But Rory, thanks so much for taking time to join the Jeff and Bill Show.
Yes, thank you.
Hey, thanks, guys. Talk to you soon.
All right, we'll get to your phone cals and texts about the budget, about the electric cars, all that.
Went away from the manual transmission. If they give me a manual transmission and the EV, might buy an EV. Might, I'm just saying.
Yeah, for me, it was the battery issue of going, okay, just because of the type of consumer we are, the type of consumer we are is literally, I will drive this car probably until either a child of mine needs it or I die.
Yeah.
I'm not a lease guy. And even the dealer guy yesterday was like, yeah, if you're going to get into electric, it's probably better to lease.
Yeah,
because that way
point,
you're turning them over.
Yeah, at this point, I would say that, lease the electric vehicle, but the problem is then you spent all the money and you have no asset at the end of the lease.
Yes, exactly.
And that's a tough one. That's a tough one.
That's why we don't lease either. So, all right. Well, we could talk that. We can talk budget. We got a lot to talk about. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Lots to talk about today, from Michael Malone to now the state budget. $4 million being spent to fight Donald Trump of your taxpayer dollars on legal fees. That's down there. And then EVs losing their luster. So lots to talk about. Let's go to the phone lines. Paul, Denver. Good morning, Paul. What's on your mind?
Morning.
Good morning. Money's on my mind, my tax money.
Yeah.
And these incompetent so-called leadership we've got here in Colorado. You know, we've got a big hole to fill. From what I read, I think it was in the Gazette, like $1.2 billion, and it's probably a lot more than that. But in any case, that's what they are saying publicly they know of as a budget hole gap. And then on top of that, we're going to lose 50% of our Medicaid budget because federal tax money is going to be pulled for that because they don't want to pay for illegal alien Medicaid. And then we're going to lose whatever percent is coming from, of our budget that's coming from HUD. So we're talking about not 1.2, but probably, I really don't know what the HUD budget is that goes into Colorado. The Medicaid is we get 50% of our Medicaid budget from the feds.
Yeah.
So that's that's huge. I mean, it's enormous. Billions, and billions. Not just 1.2, which they're struggling, and yet they still want to spend, like you're talking about, the $4 million here, and money for electric this, and electric buses, and electric garbage trucks, and on and on and on. They don't have a clue as to how to run a budget and a state. It's extraordinary. And you talk about defending frivolous lawsuits and things of that nature. What about all the SCOTUS issues that are going to be coming up, all the time and money we've wasted on the stupid gun restriction laws that are going to be lost, clearly lost when it goes up the stream to SCOTUS, which it will within the next year or so.
They are activists. They know exactly what they're doing. They're driving a political agenda. And to your point, perfectly, they're using your tax dollars to do it. Paul, great call. I appreciate it.
Yes, thanks, Paul.
We'll continue. Paul's line's open, 303-696-1971. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS. Hey,
Look,
Jeff, got a question
yeah.
for you.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt there just for a second. I was just
Jeff
thinking,
and Bill show.
yeah, I was just thinking for a sec. Years ago, I used to see these signs with protesters. I haven't seen them recently. But I believe it was a Bush era. Protesters used to hold these signs that said, imagine a world where education in schools are paid for and the Defense Department had to hold a big sale to buy a plane. I'm thinking of that when we're talking about the Colorado budget and what's going on here with the powers that be wanting to carve off $4 million to create a lawyer slush fund so they can go fight Donald Trump and fight and be the righteous ones going into court.
I should have become a lawyer, Bill.
Yes, you and me both. And the idea being that, okay, the same kind of thing. Wouldn't it be a great day where all of the needs of the Coloradan taxpayers are taken care of, and Polis and Weiser had to do a bake sale to get their money for the silk stocking lawyers out of D.C. they want to use to fight Trump in the courts?
Well, Bill,
Wouldn't that be a great day?
We're missing the big opportunity here, buddy.
Yes, what is that? AI lawyers?
If the state of Colorado wants to pay me $4 million,
oh, yeah.
Dude, we will fight whatever fight they want us to fight. I'm a total rented hack.
Oh, absolutely. I will fight. I will go and I will fight the tigers of the Denver Zoo for $4 million. I can stand to lose a limb or two for $4 million. I'm okay with that.
And here's my question to our listeners: if the state of Colorado handed you a $4 million check, would you fight anybody they asked you to fight to?
Anybody at all?
Because that's what we're doing for the lawyers.
Yeah, I'll fight.
We're handing them a $4 million check, and you get to go out there and fight Donald Trump in court. You get to write briefs.
I'll fight the guy that was the Man Mountain in the Game of Thrones. I mean, he's going to kick my ass. And everybody's going to enjoy it, but I'll do that for $4 million. Oh, sure.
$4 million. All right.
Yes.
Governor, just get a little closer to the speaker here and to the Democrat lawmakers. I know we don't normally get along.
No, not usually.
And we fight each other on our principles and that type of thing. But look, you want to send a check over to 710KNUS for $4 million? I might fight Trump a little bit on your behalf.
We know some people. There are some lawyers that show up here. Some guys. One's like a DA and stuff too. I mean, dude, we know former DAs. We know all sorts of people.
Breadman pointing out that there's already a giant, humongous slush fund in the DA's or in the AG's office. With all these lawsuit settlements. Great point, Breadman. Bringing that up. Yeah, all these opioid lawsuit settlements. Phil Weiser already has the money. I can't believe it. In the midst of all of the problems we're facing in this state and a budget shortfall, the state legislature now wants a $4 million slush fund to go fight Donald Trump so they can look better at cocktail parties with other Democrats. Look what we did with the tax money we had. We went and fought Donald Trump in court. Give me a break. The roads aren't good. Our schools can't educate our kids. It's all broken, and they want to spend money there. They're nothing but political activist hacks, and they're using your taxpayer dollars. We'll continue the...
This is KNUS.
It is 8 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Wednesday, April 9th, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710, KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, and center. We're talking this new effort down at the Colorado State Capitol to create a slush fund of $4 million to pay attorneys to fight Donald Trump's administration. That's what your taxpayer dollars are doing.
Wait, weren't we in a budget crisis? That's what we've been talking about here.
A $1.2 billion budget crisis.
And
yes.
So we found the money for the lawyers. That's great.
There's always money for the lawyers.
Oh, all the winning. Getting tired of all the winning.
And they're hurting. They're hurting.
Yes.
I've heard that the country club membership has gone up 5%.
Yes, that is difficult. Yes, and those tips, oh man, and you know, with the gin prices, you know, getting up there, and it's going to cost you more for your cruise lines, and yeah, shut up. Yeah, and the other part is the government here doesn't hire Colorado lawyers. Mayor Mike Johnston, silk stocking attorneys out of D.C., $2 million on retainer. Yep. And the mayor out of Boston spent $600,000 and did better. So, yeah, we're doing great on spending the money.
And Phil Weiser with the Elijah McClain lawsuit, hiring outside the state, too.
Dude hired lawyers that had never prosecuted a criminal case. Ever. And you bring them in from out of state to do this, and they've never done. Oh, just dumb. Just oh my God.
So people ask me all the time, why do you live in the state of Colorado? Why not you move? Part of it is family. We've got family here, and that's really important to us. But as a conservative talk radio host, it's mornings like this where I just go, it's so easy. They just tee it up for us with their stupidity.
Yeah, that's the thing that we keep talking to all the rest of the people in our Salem media family is the idea that, do you understand the crazy that we're sitting in the middle of? I mean, y'all are in these like conservative areas and stuff, and you're all talking to each other going, I'm like, you understand the crazy? I mean, there was one time where we mentioned something that was going on here, and they went, wait, they did what? And I'm like, yes, that's why we do this show here. And like, that's amazing. Yeah, it's exactly it.
It's another morning of Colorado communist craziness.
It's crazy sometimes.
All right, let's go to the phone lines, then we'll get to Blake in a second. Mike, good morning, Mike. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. Just want to let you know I was down there. I wasn't down there on Monday, but I was on Zoom for the resolution to bring a lawsuit to declare Tabor unconstitutional. The arrogance of this legislature is unbelievable. Two quick examples. One, how much is this going to cost? Well, we don't know. We have a budget for legal litigation in the general fund, but it won't cost much to take this lawsuit because it's very simple. Is Tabor constitutional or not? Okay, so they won't give us a number. Number two, is the position of the legislature that the will of the people is not as important as the decision of the legislature regarding the spending of money? Answer, yes. The collective decision of the legislature is more important than that of the people. Well, look where we are. Look where we are with this. They're going to go forward with this, and guess who's going to defend it, guys? The Attorney General of the state of Colorado. Now, if you want to rely on Phil Weiser or Jenna Griswold to defend your Tabor rights, this Tabor's gone.
Oh, my, you know, I love the fact that you brought up a really nice juxtaposition in the idea of Tabor, and I think it crystallizes a lot of my feelings and Jeff's feelings in a way that we haven't been able to on the air, and I appreciate that more than I can ever tell you this morning. It's the idea of who do you think is better, is a better decision maker based on the taxpayer money? The idea of the people and the people that voted in Tabor and have continued to support Tabor, or the legislative body? Which one better represents the will of the people? I think that is a great way to crystallize this example here, is which one is a better representation of the will of the people? The thing all the people voted on, or the thing the legislature wants to do? That's a great way to put it, man. Nicely done.
You hit the nail on the head, and their answer is they are.
Yeah. Now, here's the other thing, Mike, is let's talk about this. I love the fact that you brought up the idea of they don't know how much it's going to cost. So let's pretend here on the Jeff and Bill Show. So we'll talk to the listeners right now and say, let's pretend. Let's pretend that you walked into a restaurant this afternoon for lunch, maybe this evening with friends and family. And you're like, hey, look at this. And I see the steak here and this. And over here, there's the lobster. And here we've got a Monte Cristo sandwich. How much is a Monte Cristo going to run, sir? We don't know yet. We're going to have to figure out how difficult it is to cook. Okay. How about the steak? No, we don't know. We don't know how difficult that steak's going to be. I can't tell you a price right now. You're not buying anything off of there. If you walked into the doctor's office and the doctor's like, oh, man, you've got stage 4 cancer, and we're going to have to do this. Well, doc, what's that normally going to run? What's the cost? And I'm looking at it in my pocket. We have no idea. Just trust us. We're going to go ahead and do this. Huh? Jeff is shopping for a new car right now. He's not going to walk a lot and they're like, I like this car. How much is it, sir? We don't know yet. We have no idea how much the price is. You wouldn't make a single purchase in your life with this kind of BS, would you?
Here's one more thing you'll be interested in.
Yeah.
So if it's found unconstitutional, what are we going to do with regard to replacing it? Answer, well, we don't know, but trust us, we'll figure it out. Remember what happened with Gallagher?
Yeah.
Remember what happened with Gallagher,
Yeah, that
folks.
worked out so well.
That worked out great, didn't it?
Yeah, but just perfect.
Have a good morning.
Mike,
Dude,
great
thank you
call.
so much,
sure,
man.
appreciate it. Way to kick it off. Mike's line's open,
That is a great way to look at
303
it.
696 1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. They absolutely, down at the state capitol, know better than you when it comes to your money. And they want to take all of it now.
I love what Mike's talking about the will of the people. Which path better represents the will of the people? If this is such a good idea to take away the benefits, or you could say the detriments of Tabor, make the argument to the people and have us vote. Do it that way.
Yeah.
Do it that way. If it is such a great idea, and you may or may not like Dudley Brown, but he made his case, he brought it to the people, and we voted.
You're talking about Tabor?
Yeah, Tabor.
That was not Dudley Brown.
Oh, no, not Dudley Brown.
Was,
Dudley Brown's Gun Owners of America. It's, what's his name? It's Rocky Mountain Gun Owners. It's
no,
the
not
guy.
Rocky Mountain Gun Owners.
No, but that's Dudley Brown. That's
that's
the thing.
It's the guy down from Colorado Springs.
Bruce.
Doug
Bruce.
There
we
you go. We got
it. Took me a minute. Teach me to go to concerts late at night. That's great. And I impugned Dudley Brown's reputation.
Few lost brain cells.
Yeah, exactly.
One of those brain cells was the Douglas Bruce.
Yes, totally. Thank you so much, sir. Appreciate that.
All right, now is time for Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Good morning. 48 and partly cloudy, actually sunny outside on Wednesday in Denver. Expecting a high of 72 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story.
But the shrill voices that you're hearing this week about tariffs are the same scoundrels and frauds who never thought twice about when the United States lost 90,000 factories and plants. Think of that, 90,000. How do you do 90? If you had a map, a big map the size of that wall, and you had a pin for each factory, you wouldn't have enough room. You think of it, 90,000 factories since NAFTA.
Got to bring them back. Stock futures are down after China announced an additional 50% in retaliatory tariffs on U.S. imports today. The move comes after the 104% tariffs on Chinese imports announced by DJT after those went into effect at midnight. The new tariffs mean that there's an effective tariff of 84% on U.S. goods sold in China.
I'm proud to be the president for the workers, not the outsourcers. The president who stands up for Main Street, not Wall Street, who protects the middle class, not the political class, and who defends America, not trade cheaters all over the globe. They're trade cheaters. They cheated on us. They cheated with tariffs on us. They stole our money. They stole our jobs.
47's administration is revoking the legal status of nearly 1 million illegals who entered the U.S. using the CBP One app. The app was used by about 985,000 during the Biden administration to schedule appointments at a U.S. port of entry. These people are now being told to deport themselves using a new version of the app, and the lefties hate this.
Because it's treason. What they did is treason. When they allowed millions of people to pour in through open borders from all over the world, they came. To me, that's treason. What they've done to our country is unthinkable. The money we have to spend to take people out, and then we have judges that say, no, let Trende Araqua come back into our country. They want them to come back in killers.
Gas prices could go up in the Midwest after the Keystone oil pipeline ruptured Tuesday in North Dakota. The cause of the spill isn't yet known, but an employee near the rupture reported hearing a mechanical bang before shutting down the pipeline. About 2 minutes later, the spill is contained in a field about 60 miles southwest of Fargo.
I'd be very surprised if our suspect was from Brainerd.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, from his footprint, he looks like a big fella.
Stay tuned. Nuggets pickaxe head coach Michael Malone and GM Calvin Booth, they are gone. Maxie Minor looked like he lost his mind, but President Josh Kroenke said things weren't trending in the right direction, and they probably have a plan. We'll see. Now, will Jokic and the Nuggets tank in the first round or all of a sudden catch fire?
Get that big stuff out of here.
Okay, just a thought. David Adelman takes over as interim head coach. His dad, Rick Adelman, was one of the winningest coaches in NBA history and is one of the winningest coaches in NBA history. So the Nuggets at the Kings tonight. The Avalanche beat the Golden Knights in a shootout last night, 3-2. Rockies embarrassed by the Brewers, 7-1 the final. It is 45 in Brighton, 46 in Littleton, 48 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue.
I'm telling you, these countries are calling us up, kissing my ass. They are.
Yes, they are. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Very mild for Denver in the Front Range today and tomorrow, but today and tomorrow do expect some mid and high level clouds, and it might get a little bit breezy. We'll be low 70s today, near 70 tomorrow, deep into the 70s as we get into late Thursday and especially by Friday and Saturday. Breezy periods, likely dry until maybe a chance Sunday and Monday for showers. Weather sponsored by Colorado's Best Roofing, reminding you to protect your home from the harsh Colorado weather and schedule your free no-obligation roof inspection today at roofingcolorado.com. That's roofingcolorado.com. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We've got full phone lines. We're going to get to these in just a second. I want to talk to you about our friends over at Advanced Hair Restoration. Again, awarded Best Hair Restoration by Westward. They're great. For many of us, it might be happening. Your hair's thinning, your crown's disappearing. Maybe hair loss has you feeling your identity's lost altogether. Well, I've got good news for you. It's an incredible yet simple one-day treatment that starts growing your own natural hair the very next day, and it's guaranteed to grow for life. It's the Advanced FUE from Advanced Hair. Look, we've all seen the pills and lotions that come with monthly subscriptions. They help retain what you have, but what if what you want is your own natural hair permanently in specific areas? From Advanced Hair's state-of-the-art facilities to world-class Dr. Tanya Pauls, it's not maybe your hair will regrow. It's guaranteed that your new hair will grow. You decide how much, how thick, and where. It's why Advanced Hair is the winner of Westward's Best of Denver again this year. Free consultation. $250 off and 250 free hair grafts. All you got to do is call 720-459-HAIR. That's 720-459-HAIR or advancedhair.com. That's advancedhair.com. All right, so the issues at the state capitol, there's a lot of them. We're in the last, month of the state legislature. So everything gets crazy at this time of year. Okay. So yesterday was announced that the lawmakers are putting together a $4 million slush fund in order to pay for the lawsuits against the Trump administration. Taxpayer dollars in the midst of a $1.2 billion budget deficit. $4 million of it going to fund Phil Weiser and his lawyers to sue President Trump. Congratulations. That's where your money's going. Not to roads, not to schools. Cuts happening everywhere, but there they want to make sure that the activists can go and fight Donald Trump. Secondly, Tabor. There's an effort coming from the Colorado State Legislature to sue on the grounds that Tabor is somehow unconstitutional. Now, they have tried over and over again to bring ballot initiatives to repeal Tabor. It doesn't happen. The people like it. In fact, it's like a 70-30 support for Tabor in the state because people like the idea that there's restraint on the spending that takes place at the Colorado State Capitol. And those restraints are common sense. If you want to raise taxes, you got to go ask the people for it. You can't spend more money than is allowed. Common sense. All right? But they want to sue. Now, in order to fund this lawsuit to try to overturn Tabor, the Democrats at the Colorado State Capitol are going to be taking your tax dollars to do so. Okay? So they're taking your tax dollars to fund a lawsuit in order to be able to take all of your tax dollars. Now, this is where it gets really weird. In order to defend what's in the Constitution, the Attorney General will step in to do so. So Phil Weiser, who hates Tabor, is going to have to go defend Tabor in court using your tax dollars. It's like that meme of all the missiles shooting at each other, and it says my tax dollars and somehow also my tax dollars. That's what's happening here on Tabor. The Democrats are going to try to fight each other over Tabor when one party doesn't even like Tabor. Both parties don't like Tabor, but one's going to have to defend Tabor even though they don't like it. All this was your tax dollars. All right, let's go to the phone lines. Melissa, Denver. Good morning, Melissa. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Good morning.
Good morning. I just wanted to say that I feel like Colorado's being run by the worst HOA association in the world. All their buddies.
Hey, don't be so mean to HOA association. No, I kid. But yes, no, you're right. You're right.
And wasn't there? And I apologize, I don't remember what the money was for. But didn't you have a previous guest on talking about how they still owe the taxpayers for a previous refund? So couldn't they use that? Anyway, can we sue them? Can we get, because we're all victims, can we get a petition together if people sign it and sue them?
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't technically sue a lawmaker. They have some protections, but your point being, I think, well intended, that they are hurting us.
Our lives are our way of life has changed. The stores aren't the same. Our cars are getting damaged because they're not fixing the roads. Our insurance has gone up twice now in the last 2 years.
But Melissa, I've been down to all these protests. The problem in the minds of a majority of voters in Colorado is that the Democrats don't have enough power.
I think the kids these days, they don't work in jobs that put them with people that grew up in different ways. A lot of kids are just secluding themselves and becoming little clubs, and they're supposed to graduate out of that in high school. It's not supposed to continue into college.
No, there's a disconnect there.
They're brainwashed.
And here's the other thing, Melissa, that I kind of want to put on the table here is I understand the argument from the legislature saying that Tabor puts some artificial constraints on what they can spend as far as the budget, etc. However, for me, that would be like sitting down at the table with your significant other and discussing the budget, and that person who you probably have a relationship with and you've got love and maybe a long history and even some kids looking at you straight in the face and saying, but we need to spend every penny we take in as a family every month or we're not doing our best. They're not talking about any savings. They're not talking about the best way to use the money. The only thing they're talking about is we must spend it all. As if somehow the money will evaporate, disappear, or will not do what we need it to. And that's the fundamental problem I have with how the Democrats are coming to the table right now, is rather than looking for spending the money efficiently or in the places our family here in Colorado needs it, like you outlined, roads, schools, other areas where we have some budget shortfalls, they want to try to take all of the possible spending that we have over the course of the month. That maybe some of us that are average taxpayers. Maybe we have things in our family that go sideways over the course of a year. There may be some medical issues. There may be extra child care. There may be some things having to do with cars or rising rates in insurance that Tabor refund really does help, that it helps the family. And the one thing that we've seen with Coloradans, especially those in middle income and below, is they turn around and spend the refund. It goes back into the economy as an economic multiplier. It is a win-win for Colorado for not spending so much money and then giving it back to the taxpayers to use that economic multiplier. And nobody would take your partner seriously if they come to you and they sit at the table and say, what we really need to do to make this family work is spend every last penny. And this is when they're coming to you when you're already running a budget deficit. You already are maxed out on the credit cards. And they're like, no, we must spend every single penny each month because that's the only way that we're going to make this family work. That's just wrong.
Well, real quick, those same people don't understand that if we, and I love migrants or whatever, but if we bring them in and they send all their money home and don't spend any of it in the U.S., then that's not how the economy is supposed to work.
Billions of dollars sent from America down to Mexico from people working here. Melissa, great point. Appreciate it. Melissa's line will be open 303-696-1971. Who are we going to next, Bill?
Oh, let's go ahead and talk to Jack in Wyoming.
Jack, Wyoming. Good morning, Jack. Thanks for being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Yeah, Billy, that was a good analogy. But it's universal. It's in the family. It's in the society. Nobody understands how to manage money. They don't understand it. It's a huge responsibility. And the ones that understand it, like me, are very wealthy. And the ones that don't understand it live paycheck to paycheck. And that's never going to stop. But what I wanted to talk about was not that. I moved my business 13 years ago out of Colorado because of all of its obnoxious rules and regulations were disgusting. But I only moved 3 miles north of the state line, but I am in Wyoming with my business. And I make a conscious effort that everything we buy for our business, we buy in the state of Wyoming, because I don't want to give 1 penny of sales tax to the state of Colorado. Now, the only place where I spend any money in Colorado is I got a beautiful home on 10 acres in Evergreen that's worth an awful lot of money. I pay very high taxes on it, but I'm not willing to give up that house. I don't want to let it go. But as far as doing any business at all where I'm paying tax into the state of Colorado, they're not getting a dime out of me. And I felt that way for 13 years, and it's only getting worse.
Hey, Jack, I got a question for you. What would you say if you had a chance to sit down with some of these Democrat lawmakers and they came to you and they said, Jack, we understand that your issues with business, but do you understand what we're dealing with here in Colorado? That we have this budget shortfall and there's all this money with Tabor that we're having to return to the taxpayers each and every year. It could help us with that shortfall. And we, the legislators, obviously know better than the taxpayers where that money needs to go, for things like lawyers. I'm being facetious there. But what would you say to any Democrat lawmaker that you had the chance to sit down to today that made that argument that the legislative body knows better and can spend the money better and desperately needs the extra money that is contained in that Tabor refund? What would you say to them?
Well, that's a red herring. That's a false argument. I mean,
no, I'm not thinking it's a false argument. I'm just wondering what your premise would be. I'm not trying to make a false argument or red herring. I'm just trying to tell you what they're saying, and I just want to know from you where you are. I just want to hear from someone that has made the move, that moved your business out of Colorado, that still likes Colorado, but sees the problems in it. What would you say to them? That's it. I'm not trying to make a red herring argument. I'm just curious about your mind. I like how your mind thinks. I like where you are, and I want to know what you would tell the Democrat lawmakers. Seriously.
Okay, the Democrat lawmakers created all these problems, and they push people that have morals and values and a sense of value of everything like me out of their state, because anybody with a brain with a business is not going to put up with this crap in Colorado. Don't they understand? It's what they call your ballot by foot. It's the whole purpose of the states being individual states. When one state is not competitive or a receptive place for a business, they pick up another state. I mean, it's been going on since the beginning of time, and that's the whole way this country was put together.
That's a good argument. I like that, and I appreciate the phone call, Jack. I like that. The idea that, do you understand the economic impact you're going to make on businesses and other people that will move out of here? The idea that Jack, as an entrepreneur, picked up his business 13 years ago and moved out of the state. If you take away that Tabor refund, that may, in some cases, help some of those small business owners make ends meet because they've been making sacrifices to get their burgeoning business off the ground. They've gone without probably full salary. Maybe they are stretching their pennies together as hard as they possibly can to make sure they can pay for stuff to give their business a shot. And that little bit of money coming back from the Tabor refund helps. Maybe it catches them up on their water bill. Maybe it helps them pay, a small raise or a pay increase to someone that has been doing a good job on the business. Maybe they can take out some extra marketing to do some things to help the business grow. Maybe it's a little bit of extra money to help that R&D to make sure the product gets to market. Whatever it is, that they're taking money out of the entrepreneur that could help Colorado grow. That maybe the legislature isn't the best place to always spend the money.
And I like Jack's point, too, that the people with strong religious values are leaving these types of states because you're constantly under fire. It's Jack Phillips, it's Lori Smith, it's now this new transgender bill that is going to drag you before a Colorado Civil Rights Commission if you misgender somebody. I mean, you're taking some of the most productive people and driving them out of your state because they don't want to put up with you always driving an agenda through law. Jack, great call. Sure appreciate it. I want to talk to you about my friends over at the Art of Granite. Let me tell you why you should call Mitch Floria with the Art of Granite to put together the perfect kitchen or bathroom remodel for you. First of all, quality craftsmanship. Mitch is such an expert and craftsman that he can turn granite, quartz, marble, or other materials into a true work of art right here in your home. Superior service. From single residential installations to large-scale projects, Mitch and his team's attention to detail is unmatched. They will listen to you and get you what you need. Number 3, great value. Mitch provides granite from his own warehouse in Denver West. Was driving right by it, saw it, so much opportunity there. So many different types of granite, quartz, marble, all right there you can see. Wholesale prices, no markup, so you can get the most for your budget. Listen to this. This is wild. Mention KNUS and receive a bathroom countertop free when you purchase your fantastic new kitchen countertops. You can also get a kitchen or bathroom sink free when you purchase any countertop package. So schedule a consultation today with Mitch and visit his beautiful showroom in Denver West, or call Mitch at 303-386-5919. That's 303-386-5919. Or you can visit his website at theartofgranite.com to start dreaming about your new countertops. That's theartofgranite.com. All right, we'll continue with your phone calls and texts. We're talking the budget down at the state capitol. We're talking a $4 million slush fund for lawyers to fight Donald Trump coming from your tax dollars. And now an effort to take away Tabor. Do you support what the Democrats are doing financially at the Colorado State Capitol? You think they got their priorities in order? Or do you see this as a continued destruction of the great state of Colorado? Phone lines are open, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. So much to talk about. It's the final days of the state legislature session. Bill, if we could get to a point where we just don't meet every year. Not every state meets every year. And they're going to pass something like 500 laws, like they always do. And I'll be hard-pressed to find any that made anybody's life any better.
Yeah.
That's the thing. They're down there now creating a $4 million slush fund for their lawyers to sue the president. Yeah, taxpayer dollars. They want to go after Tabor. They can't fund schools. They can't fund roads. They have all this money. They can't actually not fund it, fix it. They can't fix the schools or the roads. It's frustrating. Let's go to Francis in Golden. Good morning, Francis. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Hey guys, how goes it? Oh,
good. How are you?
Good. Hey, I don't know if I think you guys know this. I'm a lawyer, and it's a crying shame. And I'm available for any slush fund work if you have any out there. But this idea that this is what I understand the constitutional challenge is that somehow when Colorado was yet just a territory, I think that the federal government mandated that Colorado form as a republic. And that somehow Tabor hand ties the state legislature in performing its duties of purse string administration, I guess. And I don't even see how, because that's what they're talking about, some sort of a federal constitutional lawsuit. And I defer to what's his name, Chris Murray on this. I certainly wouldn't defer to Phil Weiser. This is a non-starter. This has no hope of success, in my humble opinion. It's based on a premise that is just faulty. It's the state legislature wants to operate as if there's limitless abundance of funds, so they can operate passing laws that require limitless funding. And every state, every system that I'm aware of, does not have limitless abundance. And so they can do their job just fine in the limited constraints that they have. That's it. Well, that's your job.
Francis,
nobody's anti-ing you.
I go down and talk to progressive protesters all the time, and there is a fundamental worldview belief with them that utopia is at our grasps just if we had a little bit more money. And so Tabor becomes the enemy, or the rich become the enemy. They don't pay their fair share. They never look at the total amount of money that's actually being spent, where it's going, those types of things. And this is why you get the frustration with Doge that comes from the left too, is how dare you cut the very thing that's going to solve and alleviate poverty in this country, which is money going to these aid organizations, these NGOs, those types of things. You are a terrible person for wanting to cut this. There's never enough money in their worldview. They just need a little bit more, and then it will all come together for them.
Jeff, do you realize you just channeled Greta Thunberg a little bit? I think. Isn't that her last name? But you're right, though, Jeff. This is what you've just described, I think, is basically an addict's mentality. Is that you're chasing the next high, and you think that there's some way to get it through. It's almost like a heroin addict. Like my heroin use is constrained by my budget. Therefore, I need to eliminate the budget so I can continue to use heroin. Isn't that kind of the legislative mindset at this point?
Oh, I mean, yeah.
Sure, Tabor constrains. I know that. I have a rudimentary handle on the state budget, how it operates, and it certainly gets stressed from every angle. But you know what? I can't help you. There is no, and limitless abundance. It simply doesn't exist.
Well,
and if you think you need that to do your job, you shouldn't be in that position.
Francis, you're exactly right. The harsh reality, as Margaret Thatcher said, is that eventually you just run out of other people's money.
Yep. I mean, that's part of their legislative job, for crying out loud, is to make tough decisions on what gets funded and what doesn't. I mean, just I would the last thing this state needs is more laws. I can tell you that for dang sure. And every one of these state legislators goes down there, and it's like they feel they have to have their 5. What I think it's 5 is what they're limited to. But pieces of legislation that they either are a part of or sponsor or something. And really, what they should be doing is looking to pare some of this back. I mean, our state statutes, they're a confusing, confounding mess, and it would be nice to have somebody try to weed the garden rather than keep putting more weeds into
Francis,
the garden.
what I loved was, do you remember last year when Jared Polis brought out the table saw? And he was so excited to send the strong message that he was getting rid of regulations from like the 1930s. All while signing like 500 new laws into the books. It's all a show. But you're right, Francis, they have this like need. It's kind of like what Bill was pointing out with government funding, that they have to spend it. There's no mindset down there that maybe if we saved it or didn't write 5 laws, each lawmaker, that the people would be better off. Francis, great call. Sure appreciate it. Francis's line is open. 303-696-1971. That's 303-696-1971. Or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. Hey, I want to talk to you about our friends over at the Colorado Farm Bureau. Whether you pulled out your skis or snowmobiles this last winter, it was a great year for winter fun. But the snow means even more to Colorado agriculture. And I want you to know that our state's farmers and ranchers are doing their part to protect our future water resources. The people of Colorado agriculture always have conservation, efficiency, and reuse top of mind when it comes to water use. As the metro area continues to grow, Colorado Farm Bureau leads talks with state policymakers about preserving water for all areas of the state as pressure on the water system grows. It takes all of us to find a solution. My friends at the Colorado Farm Bureau are leaders in water conservation and water policy. They understand how to balance water for crops and water for families, and they're doing more with less. You can do your part. I recommend you join and become a member today. Go to coloradofarmbureau.com. That's coloradofarmbureau.com to join those great people there. All right, we'll continue with your phone calls and texts. $4 million taxpayer-funded slush fund for lawyers here who are really hurting. You know what, Bill? We should do one of those ASPCA ads. I think I'll do that today.
Yes.
That would be, Kelly's laughing at that. Let's do an AS with the crying lawyers about the fact that they don't have enough money to pay their country club fees.
Oh, they can't.
So that the taxpayers here in Colorado can fund them so they can go sue Donald Trump.
Yes. I mean, don't you know the yacht is already 4 year old. Right? You got to have an upgrade.
In the arms of the angels, those Trump fighting lawyers. All right. We'll get to more of this. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader News Talk 710 KNUS.
So there's this great meme out there that was a critique of the wars that were happening in Israel against the Palestinians, and there was a bunch of missiles flying from one side saying my tax dollars, and then missiles flying back from the other side saying somehow still my tax dollars.
Yes.
Now, let me give you the Colorado example of this, and this is the Tabor lawsuit coming from the Colorado State Capitol. Democrats at the state capitol, unable to get Tabor repealed on the ballot box, are filing a lawsuit to try to overturn Tabor.
Yeah.
They're going to use your tax dollars to fund that lawsuit.
Yes.
Now, defending Tabor is going to be Phil Weiser and Jared Polis, which is weird in its own sense. But they're also going to use your tax dollars. So
we're getting soaked on both ends. It doesn't matter who wins, we all lose. That's the bottom line is that we're all losers in this thing.
So you're just going to sit there and you're going to go, my tax dollars, somehow my tax dollars,
Yeah.
and they're
going to be fighting. So, and if you wonder why the Democrats are so eager to get to court to do this, because they don't have to spend the money. So
yeah, right.
Yeah. So in all honesty, doesn't matter to them at the core whether they win or lose because they're spending our money to fight.
Right, and if you lose,
Yeah.
the status quo stays the same.
Yeah.
If by chance you win, well, then you get all the tax dollars.
Yeah,
So the upside is amazing here.
Personally, yeah, the upside's amazing. And again, there's no skin in the fight
Right.
for them. It
So
doesn't matter.
It's like if you went to a casino
Yeah.
and you put money down, that wasn't your money or somebody else's money.
Yeah.
And then if you lose, it doesn't really affect you. But if you win, well, then you get to keep more of other people's
So
money.
there's no real loss on this one. So I just, personally, I would say that maybe what we should do is down at the state capitol, let's put a sign-up sheet on. Like when you try out for theater, or you don't want to try out for the soccer team or something like that, you put a sign-up sheet on. Or when you have to have like parental chaperones for the upcoming dance, and so it's a sign-up sheet. And what you do is all the lawmakers that put their name down on that sign-up sheet, what we do is if the lawsuit fighting Tabor does not win, if it is a loser, then you donate your congressional salary for the next 4 years into the Tabor fund.
I like that.
So let's get a refund on your stupid
Yes.
decisions. And all you have to do, sign your name to the piece of paper. If you think this is such a great idea, sign up and put your skin in the game. Let's see how much this really does matter to you. Because guess what? It's our skin in the game. Our tax dollars are being used on both sides, and we can feel the detriment of not getting the Tabor refund afterwards. We've got a lot on the line. What do the lawmakers have? Put your salary on the line for a couple of years. Let's see how certain you are about the necessity of this. And if you lose, we get an extra refund.
Iggy texted in, bingo, we all lose. That is exactly
Yes.
right with this Democrat leadership in Colorado. Let's go to Nick in Denver. Good morning, Nick. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Morning.
Good morning. Thank you for taking my call. I don't have anything anything to add to the current debate because you knew this was going to happen. This was going to come to a head, and it boils down to money. And I like your idea of making the politicians have skin in the game because they think they're your master.
Yep.
They're smart, you're dumb, and that's why we know how to spend your money. And they've been going after this Tabor refund or the Tabor amendment ever since there was a Tabor amendment.
Yeah, you're right. Now, Nick, I just thought of something, though, that maybe, by saying that they would forfeit their congressional salary, maybe I'm being too harsh on their specific family.
No, you're not being too harsh.
But here's the
idea.
idea.
No, you're not being too harsh.
What if we do this? Instead of making them forego their salary, I like the idea of making them work for free. Just have them have one of two options. Just because, let them have a choice. Because we as taxpayers don't get a choice. So we could do either take their salary and we can decide, is it 2 years or 4 years? I kind of like 4. Or what they need to do is after the lawsuit, if it doesn't go through and they lose, they need to resign their seat and they don't get to run again. One or the other. Put your job on the line or put your paycheck on the line. Get some skin in the game.
Exactly. Make them feel the pain because they think it's free money. They think it's monopoly money.
Yep, and whether or not they win or lose, it doesn't matter because as Jeff outlined, if they lose, they're still in the same point, in the same place they are right now. And if they win, free money. More free money.
That's right.
So, yeah, there's no way they come out of this being losers. Yeah.
Now, how do we get this done? Tell me, legally.
Well,
legally? How do you do this?
I mean, you can't. But
nobody listens to me.
We could go down. We could go down and at least ask them if they have recently given up their Tabor refund.
Yeah.
Did they put the money back into the general coffers?
Yeah. Did they?
They're going to lie to you anyway.
That's true.
I mean, the real solution is stop electing Democrats. But I've been yelling that into a can for a decade in this state, and people seem to go, you know who we should elect? Democrats.
Well, I like your idea. We need to somehow build into our Constitution safeguards so this doesn't happen. Make them suffer too.
Yeah.
Someone once proposed the idea that if they don't balance the budget, they don't get paid.
I love
that was idea. For Congress. I think that's a brilliant idea.
That is a brilliant idea. I love that idea.
It was Rand Paul, I think.
Because unless it hurts them, you're not going to have them get to that
incentives. It's
motivation.
Basic incentives.
Yeah. How many times, we are in the last few days of the legislative session, and all of a sudden they're running around as with kids that didn't read the book before the book report and finding out what to do, or those kids that would show up to school and we all knew them. They'd show up and you're looking at them before school. You're walking in and the bell's about to ring, and they look at you and go, "Wait, the science fair is today?" Like, oh, you are so screwed. That's what they look like. That's what they are.
Hey, Nick, great call.
Yeah,
sure
thanks,
appreciate it. Nick's line will be open, 303-696-1971. Bill, when you and I were younger, and we can help our audience here, we learned very quickly never to have our name end up on a list. Because when your name ends up on a list, it never works out well for you.
No, it does not.
Well, there's a few lists out there that if you were an illegal immigrant, they're going to be a little problematic. Did you download the CBP One app, and did you pay any taxes? Well, now you're on a list with the Trump administration. We'll get to that and more. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
It is 9 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Wednesday, April 9th, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, and center. He's sitting in studio with us here. He's going to be with us in just a second. Peter Boyle is going to give us a little update on what his show is going to be this weekend, how you absolutely need to tune in for it. It's going to be a great conversation. Don't miss that. We've also got to cover the IRS agreeing to share immigrant data with ICE. Never, ever, ever end up on a list if you don't want the consequences. You paid your taxes, you illegal immigrants. Now Donald Trump's coming for you. Is this going to help our country? Because now we got a big list of illegal immigrants we can get out, or are immigrants no longer going to pay any taxes, and that's going to harm us? Is there a trade-off here? We'll get to that and more, but now is time for Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
48 and sunny outside Wednesday in Denver, expecting a high of 72 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story: a former Rockies pitcher has lost his life after a tragedy. He was one of two former Major League Baseball players among the more than 100 dead after a roof collapsed in the Dominican Republic at a nightclub in Santo Domingo. The early Tuesday tragedy has claimed at least 113 lives, with scores more injured. Former Rockies pitcher Octavio Dotel played with 13 teams over 15 seasons, and Tony Blanco, who played for the Washington Nationals, also was killed. Nuggets fired head coach Michael Malone on Tuesday and GM Calvin Booth. They are gone. Maxie Minor pulled out the pickaxe and did the rest. President Josh Kroenke said things were not trending in the right direction and hopes the Nuggets can turn it around as the playoffs are around the corner. Will Jokic and the Nuggets tank the first round or all of a sudden catch fire? David Adelman takes over as the interim head coach, replacing the World Championship winning coach and GM team.
We're going to tariff our pharmaceuticals, and once we do that, they're going to come rushing back into our country because we're the big market. The advantage we have over everybody is that we're the big market. So we're going to be announcing very shortly a major tariff on pharmaceuticals, and when they hear that, they will leave China, they will leave other places because they have to sell. Most of their product is sold here.
Wall Street is looking at another volatile day after global tariffs went into effect at midnight. Stocks opened lower but have been higher since. China announced an additional 50% in retaliatory tariffs on U.S. imports today.
I'm proud to be the president for the workers, not the outsourcers. The president who stands up for Main Street, not Wall Street, who protects the middle class, not the political class, and who defends America, not trade cheaters all over the globe. They're trade cheaters. They cheated on us. They cheated with tariffs on us. They stole our money. They stole our jobs.
Chinese companies that produce holiday decorations say orders have stopped coming in from the U.S. as uncertainty swirls. China provides nearly 90% of Christmas decorations to U.S. retailers. 104% tariffs on Chinese goods are in effect now. And then there is this Princeton professor, Eddie Glaude. He does this on a regular basis, out of his mind.
And we chose a felon because we didn't want to elect a black woman. So to read that, to actually explicate that, is to say we would rather destroy the republic than for that to have happened. And until we grapple with it, there's no amount of protesting I could do. There's no amount of resistance that could come into play to actually force 78 million people to grapple with what motivated them to put themselves in this position.
Sounds like he's trying out for Broadway play, I think. A man reported missing in Douglas County last month has been found dead in his apartment. The county sheriff's office reported the disappearance of Jason Owen on March 25th, saying he might be in danger to himself. That was updated on March 28th to include information about 44-year-old June Nimmons, who investigators said could also be in danger. The sheriff's office announced earlier this week that Owen had been found dead and the case was under investigation. Authorities are still trying to locate Nimmons. 3 people are dead and 3 others are injured after a shooting in Virginia on Tuesday. The county sheriffs there in Spotsylvania, they say that deputies found all 6 victims outdoors. There are no suspects, and the ages of the victims are not known. Gas prices could go up in the Midwest after the Keystone oil pipeline ruptured Tuesday in North Dakota. The cause of the spill isn't yet known, but an employee near the rupture reported hearing a mechanical bang before shutting down the pipeline. About 2 minutes later, the spill is contained in a field about 60 miles southwest of Fargo.
I'd be very surprised if our suspect was from Brainerd.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, from his footprint, he looks like a big fella.
LeBron James is Mattel's first ever Ken-bassador for Barbie. A special LeBron James Ken doll will go on sale at select Target stores and online retailers on April 14th. The doll is taller than the regular Ken doll and features James wearing a varsity jacket, Beats headphones, and a Nike Terminator High shoes, I'm sure, made in China.
Well, that's dumb. That's dumb
sweet?
Because it's Barbie. We should have, like, LeBron James as an astronaut, LeBron James the lawyer, LeBron James the nurse. That's what we need.
Exactly.
We need nurse LeBron James. I mean, if we're going to do this whole thing with Barbie and she has all these different careers, why in the hell are we doing LeBron James as a jock? He's already got that job. He should be doing other stuff.
Point.
Yes, dog groomer LeBron James. I mean, come on. I might do that.
That is a really good point.
I mean, come on.
And another reason he is not the GOAT.
Yeah.
Okay?
He's not.
MJ. I get in an argument with my 8th grader every night about this subject.
But he's an 8th grader. He doesn't have to understand the depth of history. And he never got to see MJ. MJ was a killer every night. Yeah.
Thank you.
The other time, and next time he comes to you and he steps up and he's like, LeBron James GOAT, just go and say, yeah, I got to ask you, how many games off over the course of a season did Michael Jordan take because he was saving himself for the playoffs? Oh, yeah, the answer is 0.
0. None.
0.
The flu game.
Yeah.
Dude played through the flu.
I know. Dude wanted to play every time, and now it's my minute. Shut up.
Exactly. Let me go build my own team in Miami.
Yeah.
Let me go down here. Let me go over here. Let me do this, do that.
Do me a favor. Draft my son. I'm going to play with my son.
I'm a criminal justice expert.
Avs beat the Golden Knights in. Thanks for agreeing with me.
Absolutely, man.
Avs beat the Golden Knights in a shootout, 3-2, and the Rockies embarrassed by the Brewers, 7-1 the final. 45 in Brighton, 46 in Littleton, 48 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710, KNUS.
Very mild for Denver in the Front Range today and tomorrow, but today and tomorrow do expect some mid and high level clouds, and it might get a little bit breezy. We'll be low 70s today, near 70 tomorrow, deep into the 70s as we get into late Thursday and especially by Friday and Saturday. Breezy periods, likely dry until maybe a chance Sunday and Monday for showers. Weather sponsored by Colorado's Best Roofing, reminding you to protect your home from the harsh Colorado weather and schedule your free no-obligation roof inspection today at roofingcolorado.com. That's roofingcolorado.com. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. He's live in studio. The legendary Pete Boyles going to give us a preview of what Saturday's show is going to look like. Good morning,
I came
Pete.
over to work on it. Hi, good morning, you guys. Good show. Saturday, 9 o'clock here on 710 KNUS Denver's Talk. It's my radio guy. Remember those guys like that?
Yeah.
It's 20 minutes after the hour.
After the hour.
Your dad and I.
the best on wax.
We were those guys.
He had one of those voices. Yep. We used to ask him to do it at dinner. It was hilarious.
Yeah. My kids will say, do the radio guy, Dad.
Oh, yeah.
You know, well, Trump, Japan, South Korea, flying. You know.
My kids will know when I'm calling another business and I'm serious, like, oh, you use the radio voice. Yeah.
That voice.
Yes.
There's the real dad voice.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Who broke the window?
I know.
You know?
And then it's the big announcement. Who broke the window? Yeah.
Well, actually, this Saturday was triggered on your show. I was going to the dentist, and I listened to the guest you had on talk about the Grimm brothers. And we'll do this again, I'm sure, on Saturday. And it triggered in me something that I've been intrigued with forever, including as we speak. In my lifetime, I'm the old guy in the room, we have had 3 despotic empires, lack of a better choice. We've had, obviously, Adolf Hitler. We've had Joseph Stalin, who only takes over on the death of Lenin. And then we have Mao. What are the conditions in those countries? And by the way, you and I were talking off air. Isn't it interesting that in our top 5 trading partners today, those 3 countries, or those 3, what's left of those countries? And so what were the conditions? And it didn't happen overnight where people think, oh, this springs out of a bottle. And as you guys were so gracious on whatever day that was, Monday or Tuesday, to talk about, or allow me to say, the culture. And so, and now compare and contrast what we're watching today. I mean, we were doing a stupid ha-ha off air by pick your dictator, but are we headed that way? And better yet, what role does the media play? What role does the music play? What role does religion play? What role does numbers of things play? And so they got some great guests, and we're going to try and certainly look at those 3 principles. The Maoists are somewhat different, but certainly not Hitler and certainly not the Bolsheviks. So I'm intrigued by it. And it's I think if we get the people together, theologians and some historians, I think we have, modestly he says, a good radio show.
It seems, Pete, like it reflects a lot of the reading you're doing on these types of issues.
Yeah.
And you have this great reputation of being a deep reader, deep thinker. What are some of the books that are informing this, you think?
Well, some of the stuff goes back into undergrad and grad school and just stuff I'm reading now. I think our nation, our country is like almost 9 different countries right now.
Yeah.
We're in such a spin right now. And then you and I were talking about what's taking place with Donald Trump. And this has to happen. If my grandson's going to have, I mean, where are the jobs of my youth? They're in Shanghai. Even the jobs of you guys, where's Gates now? Where's Samsonite? Where are those jobs? They were the jobs when you guys were little guys.
Well, and the critique, and Bill and I actually figured this out, I think, before anybody else. What was the philosophical foundation for Donald Trump with his tariffs? And the economic thinking is coming from a guy named Orrin Cash, who wrote a book on essentially the new worker.
Yeah.
I'm struck at this point where it seems like the jobs are so geared towards delivery of product, right? And so his critique, Orrin Cass's critique, is that we're just such a consumerist nation at this point that it's all about cheap avocados, televisions, those types of things. It's but we're not manufacturing it. And I'm just struck by how much of our economy is driven towards Amazon, DoorDash, delivering products.
We are a service economy.
Yeah.
We are no longer, to the greatest extent, one time we were an agricultural-based economy up to and prior to the Civil War, and after the Civil War, then the Industrial
Revolution.
And that's what makes us.
But do you think that you can force this type of change upon an economy like Donald Trump's trying to do?
We're going to find out, aren't we?
Yeah, that's the question I've got is I've never seen, I went through history and I've never seen a large example of this type of tariff bring manufacturing back. I've seen it protect burgeoning manufacturing and create some barriers for manufacturing coming into a country as it's developing. But I've never seen in the course of history a developed nation be able to tariff their way back into manufacturing. I've never seen the manufacturing come back after it's been lost like this.
The best example in modern life is what happened to Harley Davidson. And the good news yesterday is they dumped their CEO. It was horrible. But when Willie B. Davidson and a guy named Bluestein, a couple guys, they took it back from AMF. And they went to Ronald Reagan, and who's my idol, and they went to Reagan and said, we need a cushion. And the Japanese were dumping big motorcycles in this country at a lower price. And AMF was making a lousy motorcycle. And those guys said, give us a chance. You don't have to give us an underwrite. You don't have to give us a tax break. Just keep these guys from dumping their products. It was Yamaha and Honda and all those guys. And so Reagan did. And it saved Harley Davidson. And there was that great moment where they ride down Pennsylvania Avenue on those bikes. And that was Ronald Reagan. Yeah. And he didn't. It can be done. And I think if you take and you say, I saw it go. My job of my youth has been either in Brazil or Shanghai and how do you bring that job back for that kid when he comes out of high school and he can make a living wage? He doesn't have to drive. Where are the Samsonite jobs? Where are the jobs at Gates?
Because I think the fallacy that we bought into was, okay, we're going to become service-oriented. Ergo, everybody's going to become service-oriented. Mm-hmm. So, and then you saw that push that came from the Democrats of everybody go to college, too. So we're all going to become white-collar employees together. We're all going to get college educations. Sure. And then it didn't work out because you're going to naturally have a part of the population that is not wired that way. They're just not going to go sit and do accounting type of stuff. They want to build things with their hands. Sure.
We are who we are. And this country is an industrial country and was an industrial country. FDR called it the arsenal of democracy. If the United States of America didn't exist, World War II would have been a hell of a lot tougher in terms of our industrial might.
Well, how important, Trump's making the argument that this is a national security issue. We've got to be able to build our ships here. Yeah. We've got to manufacture steel here, aluminum, those types of things. Do you agree with him that this is a national security issue?
It's a future. We could survive like this and watch interest rates do this and people go deeper in debt and things skyrocket and this does that. But this is an operation. This is a bypass. This is something that must be done I got a heart valve. I could have gone ahead a little longer without getting a heart valve, but time is going to come. You're going to die.
Now, one of the things I want to talk, Pete, with when you get into this conversation this weekend, would love to hear you talk about some of the other powers in the world, Russia and China, and how they look and compare and contrast to the previous dictatorial regimes, but also tying in the idea of the tariffs and what we saw on the rise of some of the dictators. And what I would point back to is Smoot-Hawley. Because when you get to Smoot-Hawley,
but that's
coming
in this
through,
country. Smoot-Hawley was
in this country. But what I'm going with it is Smoot-Hawley's here, and the idea was that we were going to create these massive tariffs, and we were going to increase, the American workforce and everything else, and put people back to work, and that was kind of the idea behind it. But what happened? Because in some ways, Smoot-Hawley and Germany. The Weimar Republic turns around and basically says, okay, then we're going to reinvest. And all of a sudden you saw Germany reinvest in military. And all of a sudden they created this massive military machine in part, I believe, because of the tariffs of Smoot-Hawley and the lack of some international trade is that does this tariff barrier with the U.S. and the protectionist attitude end up encouraging some of these other possible dictators because we retreat from the rest of the world?
I mean, the rise of the Bolsheviks happens before the end of the First World War, so that's over here. The rise of what happens in Mao's China happens after the Second World War, but begins prior to it. It's the one you look at because the industrial nation, remember, Mao's China is not industrial. The Soviet Union is not industrial. It's the Germans that are
Yes.
industrial, and there's so many factors that led into, why the rise of Adolf Hitler. Remember, Hitler after the Reichstag, they leap across, but remember they're doing pretty well in elections.
Oh, yeah, they're doing real
well. The last election prior to the Reichstag fire, they had fallen back a bit, but no, I mean that's the country to look at.
Yeah, and that's the one, and that's why I bring it up, because I do think that there is a point of Smoot-Hawley and the protectionist attitude of America that allows that nationalism to then grow inside of Germany. And I'm not saying it happens here, but I'm saying that history doesn't repeat itself, but it sure does rhyme.
It rhymes, but the Germans were blamed for the war, which wasn't really true.
Absolutely true.
They
Absolutely
were blamed
not true.
for it.
You're right.
But
You're right.
And then the money inflated, and I mean, there's so many variables in why that comes apart, but that spins, and again, it comes close in this country. There was a movement in this country the totalitarian movement. There was
really
one in
close.
Great Britain. So, we seeing some of that?
Yeah, and I'd also love to hear you when you get into the show on Saturday. This is Pete Boyles joining us. He's talking to Saturday, going to go through a kind of a walk-through history, looking at some of the dictatorial regimes and whether or not some of those we can see them growing here in America. And is past America's sins possibly being repeated based on some of our economic policies? And does it then lead to some of the growth of some of these dictatorial nations? Are we actually planting the seeds possibly for the next big dictatorial nations out there? Are we empowering China? Are we empowering Russia? Are we empowering even North Korea and Iran by pulling back our drawbridge and staying more internal? Because that's sort of what happened during the 30s and 40s.
Well, George Washington's farewell address says, "Beware foreign entanglements."
Yes.
Dwight Eisenhower's goodbye says, "The military-industrial complex." Put them both together, fellas. Trump has to do this. I'm not the greatest Trump fan in the world, but history and economics tells you he's doing it now, and it needs to be done, and let the chips fly.
Talking with Pete Boyles. He'll be on this Saturday, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. You're not going to want to miss it here on 710 KNUS. Pete, thanks for taking time to come by and preview the show for us.
Cut a promo. Thanks.
That'll be a lot of fun. Always tune in. And it's great Saturday errand driving, too. Where you're running around, going to the store, going to the hardware store, tune in and listen to Pete Boyles right here following John Caldera. It's a great lineup. Thanks so much, Pete. All right, I want to talk to you about our friends over at the Alarm Detection Systems. Reliability isn't optional. When business security is on the line, it's essential, and businesses trust alarm detection systems for the highest level of service and expertise. Think about the time you could save using one source for your cameras, key card access, fire, and intrusion systems. It's all right there. ADS, otherwise known as Alarm Detection Systems, ADS offers expert alarm installation and testing by highly trained technicians, 24/7 professional monitoring, same-day or next-day service upon request, because downtime, it's just not an option. Dedicated teams for cameras, access control, and fire alarms, and over 300 security professionals working for you. Choosing ADS means your business stays protected and will be ready to open tomorrow. They combine human monitoring with the latest AI camera technology to prevent crime in real time. Trusted by small and large businesses, including many Colorado schools, their security experts will review your system for free. So all you got to do, go to adsalarm.com and schedule today. That's ADS, as in Alarm Detection Systems. adsalarm.com. Alarm Detection Systems, the first choice of Front Range and Colorado businesses. adsalarm.com. All right, Billy, when we come back, is it a good thing the IRS sharing immigrant data with ICE? Now we got a whole new list of deportations coming. You're listening to Jeff and Bill.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Billy, Axios reporting IRS agrees to share immigrants' data with ICE. The Internal Revenue Service has agreed to share the personal information of undocumented taxpayers with immigration authorities. DHS can legally request return information relating to individuals under criminal investigation, and the IRS must provide it. Why this matters. Immigrants without legal status contribute billions in tax revenue each year. The IRS has previously kept their tax returns, which include home and work addresses, private. But sharing this information could help immigration enforcement agents find undocumented immigrants faster and potentially help the Trump administration achieve its deportation goals. But it could also discourage undocumented immigrants from paying taxes and lead to more work in the informal economy, they say.
I think problematic. One, I want to know what they mean by criminal investigation, because there's a lot that can be contained inside of those words. Is a criminal investigation whether or not you crossed the border illegally? Is a criminal investigation whether or not you claimed asylum legally or illegally? Is criminal investigation the fact that you've been caught speeding 4 times? What is criminal investigation? Is it that you're trying to kill someone else like Laken Riley? What is a criminal investigation? And given that the Trump administration operates under the premise of crossing the border illegally for any reason is a crime, that can mean anybody. And that would even mean somebody that has claimed asylum in theory. And so that, because if they don't think the asylum claim is legit or they don't like it, they'll just decide that you're not. The other part is talking about when we had Chris Murray in here, is the idea of no habeas corpus. There seems to be a lack of due process once they identify you as an illegal immigrant. Tom Homan recently said that it will be his department that will decide whether or not you're an illegal gang member. What? That they just get to designate it?
Well, I mean, the judge has to agree.
Not necessarily, because some of these things...
This is the judge gave the deportation order.
No, but not necessarily, because they're saying they decide that. And the judge didn't give the deportation order on some of those people that went to El Salvador prisons. They didn't give a deportation order on them. They just grabbed them and they took them. That's why they're trying to get some of them back who may not be the illegal gang members they say they are. And that's a problem. And the only issue I've got here is we seem to have some questions about some of the people we've identified as illegal immigrants and as criminals. So I want to see what that looks like, because we've got stories of, I think it was in New Jersey, a pair of restaurant owners that had been there as a restaurant or bodega that had been there for decades. And they were picked up and lumped in as far as the illegal immigrants. And they've been put in. They had temporary protected status. Now, they didn't go through for decades, but okay. But they were picked up and they were looked at deported as well. So that's what I want to know. What does this mean by criminal investigation? How are we going to decide? And when we do decide, are we going to make sure that we have the right people? I also think this will discourage people that are under, temporary protected status, which would be people like those Haitian immigrants who were not eating the dogs and cats, despite claims of our current administration. They weren't doing it, but they were in the country because they actually had been invited into the community, and they were under a temporary protected status. They didn't sneak under the dark of night and cross the river. They didn't cross the Rio Grande. They came here and were brought into the country based on their temporary protected status and some asylum claims. But they no longer would be okay. So are you saying? But no. But the idea is, when they were there, they paid taxes. Yep. And they paid Social Security. And
now it's easier to find them. But look, being on the list itself does not automatically mean you're being deported. It's not like they just hand it over to the Trump administration. They're like, oh, well, here's a list of everyone we can deport.
How do we know?
It makes it easier to find them.
No, but how do we know what that list is? That's my question. We don't know what this list looks like. It's an amorphous
We know
designation.
It includes millions of people, and it includes
how do we determine?
People that shouldn't be here legally, and it includes their address, which we all know that the election mandate was address illegal immigrants. Now you got a list that makes it easier to find them. It's time to go.
Here's the thing. The people that are in this country, quote, illegally, won't be on that list as a core. They can't be.
Yeah, they are.
No, they aren't.
That's exactly what this list is.
No, it's because the idea of in order to get that number, you have to claim asylum and some other
undocumented
stuff.
taxpayers.
Yeah. Which would be things like people that have claimed asylum and temporary protected status. And
now
stuff
we
like
know
that.
where they are.
Yeah, but that's the idea is you're not, this list doesn't give you the people that snuck across the river in the dark of night across the Rio Grande and are showing up, and they're not you're not getting.
It's going to give you some of them.
Hang on a sec. Wait. This is not the day laborers that you see milling around in the parking lots of Home Depot.
Why not? It might not be all of them, but it's some of them.
Tell me how the person that got into the country illegally, that is taking cash on a day labor job at Home Depot, where's their Social Security number?
I guarantee you some of them pay these taxes.
Where's the
We
Social
don't have
Security
to have
number?
a Social Security number to pay taxes.
How do they file?
Don't they get a temporary workers permit?
But that would mean they have to claim asylum or be a temporary protected status.
In some cases,
can't get it.
I guarantee you there's illegal immigrants in this list.
Here's the thing is,
you know where some of them are.
I submit there could be and probably are some illegal immigrants, the type of which you're describing.
Yes.
But the vast majority have gone through a separate process in which they were given this designation by the government. They're not the people you're describing and that people oftentimes think of, the squeegee holders down at the intersections, the people that are coming here and working off books.
It's some of them. And you have people that have overstayed their visas and some folks. Right. And now we have an address. So go knock on their door.
Okay.
It's the next list of folks that need to go.
So, and so those people then aren't going to keep paying the taxes, aren't going to work, and they're going to work under the table. Okay. Congratulations.
Or leave our country. The whole point being, get out of here.
Yeah. Just like Elon Musk should have done, but that's okay. We won't get into that one. Because of the student visa thing. That's okay. But he would have been on that. He would have been on that list. Elon Musk would have been on that list.
And he worked through his immigration issues and got it figured out.
But he can't,
So what's problem? Why do you have a problem with ICE having a list of where undocumented taxpayers are?
I didn't. What I said is, how are they choosing which ones are the criminals? What's the criminal investigation? And how are they doing this list? Because I do not have full confidence that they are going after the, quote, criminals inside of our society as we are right now. I see a number of people getting picked up that don't necessarily reach that level of what I would call criminality that is negatively impacting our society. Are there portions of them? Yes. Are there portions that are not? Yes. And that's the issue that I've got, is that these are people that seem to be going through the process. We have a story of a guy who had gone through the process, who applied for asylum, spent 3 years with his girlfriend in Colombia, waiting for temporary protected status and asylum status here in America, came in, and several months later, grabbed by Trump and taken away.
For what reason?
He went through the process because he was technically illegal, but he had temporary protected status at the time. He had it, and he had gone through the adjudication process for asylum and had waited in Colombia for 3 years to go through the process.
And came here under Biden?
Yeah.
And then Trump said no more.
Yeah.
So time to go.
Yeah, I know.
But you have that ability as a country to do that.
But he did it right. He did it the way that we asked him to. He didn't show up at a port of entry and say, "Hi, I'm here. Now give me asylum."
Right.
He didn't do that.
So
he
you think he has a right
country.
to this country for eternity? Because he went through the process?
That's not
But he never got citizenship? He's here on temporary...
You've missed my point.
Apparently.
You missed my point. Yes, completely. Is this the highest priority? Is he the highest priority? Or is it the people that we had doing stuff?
It's a deflection.
No,
That's
it's not.
Deflection.
No,
if you're
not
here illegally, go.
No, but he's
That's
not
the
here.
point.
Wait, Jeff, he's not here illegally.
And
he applied.
Right, and now the president...
the government granted it.
And the president has said it's time for him to go.
That doesn't make him illegal. Not the same way that the dude that killed Lake and Riley, who crossed the border illegally 6 times.
Right, and we're going to get them out, and then we're going to get these other people out.
Hang on a second.
And we're working our way through the process.
But we're not. We're just randomly picking people up because this is the issue. We're not going after the people like the Lake and Riley killer. We're going after this dude who went through the process to claim asylum properly.
Why can't we go after both?
That's my issue, is that your priorities are off. That when you're grabbing up all of them and calling them all criminals, the dude that went and waited 3 years in Colombia isn't the same thing as someone that comes through illegally and is working off
you gave me one
books.
example. We had 10 million people that crossed the border under Joe Biden. It's going to be a lot of different avenues to get all these people out of our country. One guy that followed the rules and then the president decided it's time to go home doesn't then set the expectation that we're somehow misprioritizing.
Yes, it does. Because that's
because
a
of
bad
one
priority.
guy?
No, because that's an example of misprioritization, and there are others that
And
are
one
here
example?
too.
There's like a handful of examples.
What about? Okay, but there are a number of examples, and so the fact that we so recently in the first 100 days have a number of examples of mispriorities on misprioritization
out of 10 million
of who
people,
these are, we haven't deported 10 million
We're
people
trying
yet.
to deport 10 million people.
Then why don't we
and
go
you're
after the criminals?
You're finding like one or
Why
two
don't we
examples
go
and go,
after the
look, we got our
criminals?
priorities mixed up.
Why don't we go after the criminals?
We
not the people
are.
that did it right. No, we
Are
not.
you kidding me?
The dude from Colombia is
Bill,
not a criminal.
we had an entire
The dude from
operation
Colombia is
here
not a
that got
criminal.
exposed by media trying to wrap up criminals, and they all ran away. So we're having to change our games. But you find like a handful of examples of, well, he's kind of a nice guy, and I guess he shouldn't be deported. Ergo, we have all of our priorities wrong. We've got 10 million people to get out. I'm sure there's a few nice people in the midst of that that are going to get swept up.
And to disagree with me, you used a single example here in Colorado of media telling people. That's it.
Yeah,
One
and you
example.
used a
But you're
single
pushing-
example
no,
for
no.
me.
But the thing is, you're pushing back saying it's invalid based on the single example, and then you defend your position with a single example. So either the single example is no good or it is. You have to decide because that's your premise. You decided just a second ago the single example is good enough to defend your position, but not mine. That's not intellectually consistent.
No, it's not.
Yes, it's not intellectually
Bill.
consistent. You're right.
No,
It's not.
I showed you were the one that started with a single example, and I
Yes,
showed
and
that
I
there were
said it-
other single
yes,
examples.
And I said it was valid, and then you come back with another single example saying single examples can't be valid in the discussion because we have to look at all 10 million. We're not deporting all 10 million. That's
We're
not gonna
trying
happen.
to.
That's not going to happen. And we're doing such a bang-up job there. Where our numbers are less than what they were as far as Biden last time I checked. But that's okay. But the issue being who's the priority? Because we were talked about our streets are so crime-filled with all these illegal immigrants. Yet the people that we've been
why can't
deporting
it be
aren't
both?
the criminals.
Why can't it be both, Bill?
Why can't you focus on the people that are causing the crime?
They are.
No, they're not.
Yes,
No,
they
they're
have
not.
ICE, DEA, all those people going after the criminals, and now you have folks
The
that
dude
we can get
stayed-
out too.
The dude that stayed in Colombia for 3 years isn't a criminal. The guy that was a professional soccer player in Venezuela isn't a criminal. The barber that was sent to the El Salvadoran prison isn't a criminal.
The
guy they were talking
MS-13
about
guy?
the guy they were talking. Oh, the MS-13 guy. He's not an MS-13 guy. That's completely and totally wrong.
No, a judge found that he was a part of MS-13.
No, he went through 5 years of a process. He was held by ICE for 12 months, and he went through the process, and they found there was no proof of him being part of MS-13, despite what JD. If we're talking about the same person, despite what JD Vance has said,
And the judge found that he was part of
didn't.
MS-13.
No,
Yes,
no,
he
went
did. We
no,
talked
he
about this
didn't.
with Chris Murray yesterday.
No, he went through the
a
process
judge
and didn't
found
find.
it. It wasn't just random.
Then we're probably talking about a different person because the one that I'm familiar with, the guy went through the process. He went through immigration courts and went through court and showed there was no proof of him being part of MS-13. There was no proof of it. None. And he
No
had been-
proof.
None.
No tattoos.
No proof of him being part of MS-13. No.
No MS-13 tattoos.
No.
Yeah, that's not right.
Well,
that's just factually wrong.
We're talking about a different person then, but both cases can be true. Both cases can be true. But there is someone who's not part of MS-13.
It is amazing to me, and we're up against a break here, but it is amazing to me that we can allow 10 million people into this country under Joe Biden, and yet a handful
We didn't
of...
allow 10 million in under Joe Biden.
Yes, it was. It was 10 million. It was an invasion that took place. But
That is
one
silly.
guy out of Baltimore
that's
gets
cumulative.
swept up
No, that's
and
a
put
cumulative
in...
number. That's silly.
Under Joe Biden, it was 10
No.
million. 100%. And then one guy from Baltimore somehow gets swept up in this, and we're not sure if he's MS-13 or not. But the whole progressive world is going to come down to defend this guy while allowing an invasion into this country. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. All right, we're up against a break. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Well, it wouldn't be the Jeff and Bill Show if there weren't feisty debates. And that was a fun one. Thank you, Bill. Bill and I will be live next Wednesday, a week from today, at the IHOP in Lakewood. So we are back live in person for the entire show. If you've never done one of these, it's a ton of fun because you can hang out for 30 seconds, grab a cup of coffee and say hi to us, or all 4 hours and watch the entire production with the cameras and the lights and the sound systems and all that stuff. It's really cool to watch, and we oftentimes interact with folks as well as they come by, and so you may be on the show. Joe from Arvada came by.
You should get him on by. It's Alameda and Wadsworth is basically where we're going to be. $7.10. You will get a special Jeff and Bill IHOP breakfast. $7.10 gets you the eggs, bacon, hash browns, and their world-famous pancakes. There are going to be some other specials as well, but they're doing that one for us. $7.10. So, come on out. See us. We'd love to see you. It'd be a week from today at the IHOP at Alameda and Wadsworth. We'll be doing the show live. Hope to see you there.
And then if Bill and I really get into it, we start throwing things at each other.
Yes.
Which is fun. Food fight!
But then when he throws bacon, I just eat it. I'm fine with that. Trying to get him to throw his bacon at me.
Kept bringing. Do you remember all the great food they kept bringing?
Yes. They kept
it's
bringing.
Like we sit there like kings, and the management just keeps bringing more and more food for us to eat.
I shared a picture on social media last time we were at IHOP, and it was like the second or third round of stuff they had brought us, and one of my buddies online is like, burger? You're doing a burger for breakfast? I'm like, oh, no, my friend. I've already had the pancakes. We've already had 2 rounds of this. He's like, what? I'm like, yeah, that's round number 3. By round number 3, yes, we can do a burger. And he's like, yeah, you're right. By round number 3, you can do a burger. So, yeah, this will be fun.
And lots of different pancake options and milkshakes and all that good stuff. And then last time we were at the IHOP, we had the Real Housewives of the Republican Party back.
Yes, so that'll be kind of fun. And if things work out properly, we've still got some I's to dot and some T's to cross. We may have a very special announcement that morning as well, something that we've been waiting for, something we will finally be able to premiere. But I can't say anything more right now because I've still got some details in the
may
behind
have to
the
do
scenes
with a T-shirt and a certain
we'll see.
sport coat boy.
We'll see. I'm not sure.
We're working on all that. Well, if you missed any of the show, go to 710knus.com to download the podcast. Thank you to everybody that called in, texted. This is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. We love you all. Charlie Kirk is up next. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's talk leader. We are News Talk 710 KNUS.